Hey, Director, we are on YouTube.
Thank you, Drew. All right, Madam Chair, should I go ahead and read the preamble?
Yes.
All right, let's go ahead, Drew. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. I'm going to go ahead and read the preamble to get the meeting started. In compliance with notification requirements of Ohio's open meeting law and section 101.021 of the Codified Ordinances of Cleveland, Ohio, 1976, notice of this meeting has been publicly posted. All boards and commissions under the purview of the City Planning Department conducts its meetings according to Robert's Rules of Order. Actions during the meeting will be taken by voice vote. Abstentions from any vote due to a conflict of interest should be stated for the record prior to the taking of any vote. In order to ensure that everyone participating in the meeting has the opportunity to be heard, we ask that you use the raise hand feature before asking a question or making a comment. The raise hand feature can be found in the participants panel on the desktop and mobile version and activated by clicking the hand icon. Please wait for the chair or facilitator to recognize you and be sure to select unmute and announce yourself before you speak. When finished speaking, please lower your hand by clicking on the raise hand icon again and mute your microphone. We will also be utilizing the chat feature to communicate with participants. The chat feature can be activated by clicking the chat button located on the bottom of the WebEx screen. Call-in users can unmute by using *6. Next slide. All meeting activity is being recorded via the WebEx platform. These proceedings are also being live streamed via YouTube. All requests to speak on a particular matter via our website and email have been considered. We've also received emails from those who have provided written comment on a particular matter. Next slide. So should I make my comments now, Madam Chair? Or should we do the roll call
I think
first?
we should call the roll first.
All right,
Okay.
great.
Downing,
Present.
Luker,
Present.
Curry,
Present.
McCray Scott,
Present.
Hall,
Present.
Life.
Present.
Madam Chair, we have a quorum.
Okay. Welcome everyone to the meeting. Before we start, the director is going to make a few comments before we jump into the meeting. So Director Wong.
Great, thank you, Madam Chair. Just want to welcome everyone to our meeting today. As you may have seen, the April 22nd meeting 2 weeks ago was canceled due to a mishap with calendaring and just a misunderstanding due to the Good Friday holiday. While I believe that this mishap or the recurring calendar hold, whatever have you, was an honest mistake, I, as the director, I'm accountable to the Planning Commission, I'm accountable to the department, and also to the public to make sure that we continuously have access to these Planning Commission meetings. So since then, we have worked hard on our staff side to make sure our calendars are cleaned up and that we'll have the right links moving forward. So with that, we are combining agendas today, both the April 22nd agenda and the May 6th agenda. We'll work hard with the chair to make sure that we will have all things covered, and Madam Chair will also continue to move things forward. And so you can think of today as a very full 3-course meal of planning agenda items. So stick with us, they're great options. I also wanted to note that we do have update to the slides as well. So the title slides before every project will show the advisory committee recommendation just for reference. We will not be reading them aloud, but they will be available for the commission members or the public to see what the recommendations were. With that, I'll turn it over to Madam Chair to get the agenda started and for her remarks as well.
Okay. Before we jump into the first item, I would like to say that the director has organized the agenda to cover the items from the previous meeting first, and then we will cover the items of the current meeting second, but we've put the items that are important to make sure that they continue to move forward for permitting in a manner that we will get through them today. So to the public, I just want to say that I'm going to probably have to interrupt a few people and ask them to move a little more quickly and to focus on the purview of this commission. So less on the interior, which is not our purview of particular projects, just to get through it and really to make sure that we have the business of this city moving forward, and people can really move their projects forward. So I will probably have to interrupt a few people, and I'm going to apologize in advance for that to just keep this moving. The first item is a zoning matter, so if we can go to that zoning map amendment. And before staff presents, I just want to remind the public that for rezonings are a public hearing. And so first we ask for a presentation from staff who will report on the proposed zoning matter. Second, we'll ask the sponsors if there are any to speak to the legislation. And then we will ask for public comment. And since it's a public hearing, we'll take testimony from the public. First, we'll ask for anyone who is a proponent of the zoning matter to speak first, and then opponents of the matter. We ask that you keep your comments to 3 minutes or less so that we can hear from everyone, and that you state clearly your name and address and your relationship to the specific zoning matter before you go. So with that, I think I'm going to turn it over to the staff, to Matt Moss, to present this matter. Thank you. And I will say before I go, it is an unmapped ordinance. And so Matt can talk about that as well. But it's changing the use and height of the area districts on the land east of Pearl Road and north of Broadview Heights Road to an urban overlay, form overlay. So thank you, Matt.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Next slide, please. So this is what we've been calling the third phase of our Old Brooklyn rezoning. We actually started rezoning parts of Old Brooklyn back in 2017 with then Councilman Kelly. This part of Old Brooklyn is split between Ward 13 and Ward 12. So we started in that ward and we're finally able to wrap it up today with you all. Next slide. So as you stated, Madam Chair, the purpose of this map change is to change the use area and height districts in parts of the Old Brooklyn neighborhood and add the urban form overlay. The purpose of this rezoning is largely threefold. It's to align the zoning and height districts to more closely match the existing fabric, promote development in line with the existing context, enable desired retail uses along Pearl Road and Broadview Road, and then also rezone some existing park uses to permanent green spaces. Next slide. So this area shows the current zoning map. The current zoning districts are marked in red, and the yellow areas indicate the proposed rezoning areas. I just want to point out here that there's a mix of zoning. The Henninger Park area, for example, is currently zoned industrial. Calgary Park to the north is currently zoned 2-family. So there are some of these zoning updates we want to make to match the current land uses and also realign the land uses on, or the zoning, the permitted zoning along Broadview Road. Next slide. This is the proposed map change. This is map change 2623. So you can broadly see these areas. We're realigning the zoning to local retail along Pearl, limited retail in the midsection, and then local retail again down closer to Spring Road, cleaning up some of the zoning districts in the back between Broadview Road and the park space. And then, like I said, changing the park zoning. Next slide. So I want to focus first on this Pearl Road intersection. So we rezoned the other parts of Pearl Broadview State Split. This is the last part left to be done. Next slide. This aerial shows the current land uses. You can see there's a mix of some historic commercial buildings, some new commercial buildings. There's some multifamily housing in here and some surface parking lots. Next slide. So this zoning change would unify this area as a local retail with a 2 height district. That's a 60-foot height limit, and it would also add the urban form overlay. So this zoning would essentially bring the existing historic retail buildings into conformance, pretty much conformance with the zoning code, and would allow the future development of some of the surface parking, if it were desired, to be done by right. And this also helps align these areas with the transit investments that have been made on Pearl and the ones we're expecting with RTA that are forthcoming as part of the 25 Connects plan. Next slide. And this is just a context shot to show what those buildings look like from the street. Next slide. I want to now focus on the park space. So these are, again, Henninger Park and Calgary Park. Next slide. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm calling it Henninger. It's now called Brighton Park. This is the Metro Park's latest project that they completed last year. Next slide. So this is an older aerial. It shows the area prior to it being developed and improved by the Western Reserve Land Conservancy and the Metro Parks. And then to the north is an existing city park known as Calgary Park. Next slide. So this is pretty simple. We just want to rezone these areas so they can be preserved as park space in the future. Next slide. Next, we have a little pocket of semi-industrial use that's shown here with the red box. Next slide. This is an aerial showing those existing light industrial uses. There's some roofing companies back here. There's some small warehousing, some light industrial. There's a Cleveland Public Power substation that's located towards the top of this picture behind the Burger King. So again, the zoning is meant to keep these uses working in perpetuity, but if they were to change in the future, the zoning would allow these to transition to housing or some other type of retail use down the line. Next slide. And here's a shot showing how Henninger looks now. There's some multifamily housing towards the back of this shot, but again, some light industrial uses along Henninger Road. And here's the shot showing where that zoning area is. The reason why there is that green rectangle sticking down to Henninger is that's an access road as part of the Brighton Park development. Next slide. Next, I want to focus on this small pocket of housing that's in the area. This is currently zoned entirely multifamily, and we want to clean up some of the zoning to match the current land uses. Next slide. So as you can see from the aerial on the right side of this image, there's single and two family homes. And on the left side, you have some more slightly denser multifamily housing, some townhomes as well. So that's why we're making this split to preserve the two single and two family homes to the right, and then also make the housing that's existing multifamily housing by right and allow some of the vacant lots to be developed as well. Next slide. And here's a shot just showing that distinction. You can really see just the slightly different land uses and forms on this street. Next slide. And here's again, a close-up of that zoning map. Next, I'll focus on the large section along Broadview. This is what we're proposing to consolidate into a limited retail G2 district with the urban form overlay. Next slide. This aerial shows the mid to low density retail and some housing existing land uses here. So there's a mix of commercial buildings. There are some homes that have had commercial additions added onto them over the decades. And there's also quite a few vacant or parking areas that are currently present in this character district. Next slide. And here you can see, again, this is a street view photo showing some of that low to mid density mixed use retail buildings with some vacant lots. What this zoning change would allow is for these lots to not only be developed, not only would buildings like the one you see on the left become legal conforming, the lots themselves could be developed in a similar manner now and sort of infill that urban fabric and restore some of the walkability to Broadview Road. Next slide. And again, here's a close-up of that showing the boundaries of that limited retail district and the urban form overlay. The reason why we wanted to propose the limited retail here is there is some light industrial uses. We're working with the councilwoman and with Old Brooklyn CDC with property owners as well to consolidate some of the lots here, position them for redevelopment, and the zoning would really just enable that to happen in a smooth and predictable way. Next slide. And lastly, we have the last last local retail district all the way down to Spring Road. Next slide. So there's some auto-oriented uses here, but there's also, again, some of that traditional mixed use apartments over retail buildings that you see in Old Brooklyn. And this just shows that area. Next slide. Again, here's a close-up of the area we're proposing as local retail. It's from 22nd to Spring. Next slide. And here's a context shot. Again, there's some mixed-use buildings, two-story mixed-use buildings, some commercial buildings, but also these parking lots that this zoning would allow a greater flexibility of use for these spaces if they were to be redeveloped in the future. Next slide. And again, here's the same area, but just looking south instead. You can see some existing homes on the street. Some of them are being used as home offices, as like the one on the left, but the zoning here would not only permit these uses, but if they, again, were redeveloped in the future, they would be done in a way to continue the walkable urban form that you can experience in Old Brooklyn. Next slide. And that's it. I'd be happy to answer any questions, either from the commission or from the public. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Matt. Unless the council person is here to speak on this, I think we'll move to the public comment. I don't think I see her. So this is a public hearing. Now we will take testimony from the public. So first we'll hear from anyone who's in favor of the zoning change, any proponents. Please raise your hand and we will call on you one by one. So I might need some help if someone can tell me if anybody is raising their hands.
Chair Curry, there's one raised hand.
Okay.
B-Guard representing Big Creek Connects. If you'd like to go ahead and speak.
Okay. Yes, please go ahead and state your name and your organization or your address.
Hi, this is Bob Garden, Executive Director, Big Creek Connects, and a member of the Near West Design Review Committee. Address 3315 Library Avenue, 44109. Yeah, as in those roles, I strongly support the rezoning proposal. You know, we support compact, sustainable development, walkable communities, and at the same time, this recognizes and reinforces critical green space in the park designations.
Okay. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. If there isn't anyone else in favor, I'm going to ask if there are any opponents or those who'd like to speak against the zoning matter to please raise your hand. Or if anyone has any questions, who's an affected property owner, that's okay too. Okay, it doesn't look like there's anyone, so we're going to close the public portion of the meeting and turn it over to the commission members for any deliberation or questions. Commission members?
Madam Chair, I move approval. Downing.
Second,
We have a vote.
Meeker.
We have a motion and a second. Thank you both. Any further discussion before we take a vote?
Just a quick comment, Madam Chair, that, you know, like, I think my only hangup with these urban form overlays is when we're having to come back to give approval to curb cuts that are pre-existing. And I think there'd be value in, you know, especially when we consider that some of these are those homes that we should be able to go in and kind of grandfather upfront existing aprons, especially on properties where it's just clearly evident that there's only one option for the apron. I think that would just be a business friendly approach as people are coming in and wanting to change uses or establish uses. So it's just a comment that something that could happen in urban form overlays across the city. So,
Yeah,
but no
I think-
opposition.
Yeah, I think it's a great idea. I think maybe, I don't know if you'd be open to maybe a kind of a staff working with applicants, and only if there's really some disagreement, then it may not even need to come here for those, just those. But I don't know how we codify that. So, but I'm in agreement with you. So maybe Matt, if you don't mind, if we could just think about that and how that can just be practically applied, that might be helpful.
Yeah, Madam Chair, I might be able to clarify. I'm of course happy to do that, but I could also clarify that it's when the urban form overlay applies to a property, if that property only has one street frontage, it does not prohibit a curb cut to that frontage. It's only when there's a secondary frontage, like a side street or an alley, where the urban overlay prohibits a curb cut on the primary frontage, and that's typically the frontage where we map the line.
Yeah, I
So
think he's speaking to more existing, so where there's an existing condition, that we really think about the practicality of asking someone to do something different when it's an existing curb cut.
Sure.
So, okay, well, thank you. Well, maybe you could kind of look into that for us about how we could maybe expedite that for folks, and make it fair and equitable and how it's applied across the city. Any other comments or questions before we take the roll?
Yeah, just to piggyback on Councilman Slice's comment, and it's not for I don't intend it for discussion, but I think, you know, I'm curious when form-based code's going to be applied the portions of the city. So I just wanted to point that out. I think that would help alleviate some of these issues.
Yep. I think we'll be talking about that soon. So, okay, can we call the roll?
Downing,
Yes.
Fluker,
Yes.
Curry,
Yes.
McCray Scott,
Yes.
Paul,
Yes.
Slife.
Yes.
Motion carries, and I really want to thank you, Matt, for your excellent work. You always do really great, thorough work, and keep moving things proactively forward. So thank you very much.
Thank you all. Appreciate it.
Okay, next item. These are the projects from the previous meeting from April 22nd, 2022. The first one is Northeast Design Review Case. This is the Cuyahoga TAY new construction. It's 1415 and 1430 East 45th Street. And a note here that we gave schematic design approval to this project on August 6th, and the committee approved it as presented. So to the speakers for this, you can go very quickly, and I do need to swear you in though, since it's the design review case. So who's speaking to this matter?
My name is Brian Grambort from Hedy DeFrancisco and Siebold.
Okay. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth as you shall answer to the penalty of perjury?
I do.
Okay, take it away.
Do I need to share the presentation, or is it loaded? There it is. Okay, great. Thank you, Madam Chair, Director Wong, Commission members. Presenting Cuyahoga TAY, which is a new construction 3-story 50-unit apartment building. TAY stands for Transition Age Youth, and the residents will be between the ages of 18 and 25, transitioning out of foster care, have lived experience of some form of homelessness and other unsafe, unhealthy experiences during that time, and this will essentially function as an apartment building, but directed for to house residents of that age and demographic. I am joined today by Ellen Kirtner-LaFleur from CHN Housing Partners, the co-developer, and Richard Carr from Eden Inc., who will be the ultimate property manager and owner of the building. Next slide, please. This project is a low-income housing tax credit project being funded through OFA. It is located just north of Superior in that yellow square there, bridging between East 45th and East 47th. One item to note is that it is essentially, we're seeing it as a buffer property. The properties immediately to the south towards Superior are of a retail, semi-industrial nature, and the properties immediately to the north are single family. So we have kind of a buffer transition. Next slide, please. So these are the Superior context photos of the properties there. Next slide. Up East 40, moving up East 47th from the left, right off Superior, and to the right, you'll see it changes to single family. On the bottom left is you see the kind of the edge of the property, and then on the bottom right are the single family homes on East 47th. And the next slide is from East 45th. These are one-way streets. So East 47th moves one way north, East 45th moves one way south. So you can see East 45th is primarily single family homes until you get to our site on the bottom left. Next slide. This is the proposed site plan with the building in light blue. As a transition buffering site, we wanted to buffer kind of those uses to the south from the single family homes to the north, as well as trying not to impose the mass of a 3-story building on the single family home. So kind of formed this kind of Z-shaped building, pulling the major mass of the building away from the single family homes. Fronting along East 47th Street, we're seeing those as primarily the residential side, whereas the main parking lot, main entrance is off of East 45th Street. The building also serves to separate some of the uses. So there will be some parents with young children. There is a small playground for children ages 0 to 5 on the north in orange. On the south side by the parking lot, we have a kind of half-court basketball court and some resident gardens in brown just to the south there. Next slide, please. I think we get a larger site plan. There we go. So a couple items to note here. We have we want to maintain some semblance of street trees. Unfortunately, the street trees that are on East 47th and East 45th have been pretty severely cut back. And so we want to provide those street trees as shown on East 47th, but we're pulling them in to try to avoid those utility lines. We are providing site fencing because of the lived experience of these young adults. We need to provide them with a safe and secure building as well as a site. So we're not showing any fencing in the yellow and the blue dashed lines along East 47th Street, but around the playground to the north, you see in orange on both the north and south sides of the building, we have decorative metal fencing. And then in blue along the north and the south property lines, we have privacy fencing. So allowing those the single family home immediately to the north, privacy, as well as blocking the industrial uses to the south. And then up by the parking lot on the north side, we transition back to a decorative metal fence at the front of that single family home where it changes from blue to orange. And we wrap around East 45th Street, buffering kind of the impact of a fence with a fairly dense landscape buffer around 12 feet with intended to be fully mature trees and like I said, a landscape buffer, and then wrapping around to the south. We do have...
We can move a little more quickly and focus maybe on any issues from design review, because we know they've seen this in detail.
Okay. Well, that was one of the comments from design review, location of fencing. Going back to the site plan real quick, I wanted to touch upon trash. Trash is always a question. Trash will be kept inside the building and rolled out to the south side to East 47th Street to be picked up and then moved back into the building. So no trash dumpster. Moving forward, this is landscaping. So this is an image on the top from the main drive off East 45th Street. You see the primary entrance canopy, and the building is fully brick. It's all structural brick and durable. We feel a durable material. One of the comments from design review was the size of the fenestration. We had revised the fenestration to be much smaller and in residential keeping. So that's what you see on the renderings below. Next slide, please. The image on the top right, the east elevation is that primary facade along East 47th Street. And that's going to be kind of the more residential facade with all of the 2-bedroom units, which would have children in it. And these are some context photos trying to give a sense of scale of adjacent buildings relative to this. I think it's probably not all that accurate considering the perspective of some of the photos, but next slide, please. And these are the materials. As I mentioned, brick, vinyl windows, and an asphalt shingle roof. I would be happy to answer any questions you have or get into more detail.
Thank you very much. Commission members, any questions or additional information that you would like to hear about?
Madam Chair, I move approval. Downing.
We have a motion and a second. Are there any further comment? I would just say it's a phenomenal project. Love the mission of this project and very much needed, and appreciate the really the level of detail and care for the adjacent properties and for this project. It's phenomenal. So thank you.
Thank you.
You can call the roll.
Downing,
Yes.
Fluker,
I must recuse myself.
Murray,
Yes.
McCray Scott,
Yes.
Paul,
Yes.
Slife.
Motion carries. Thank you very much. And thank you for accommodating the need to move quickly, but it was great to see. So thank
My
you.
pleasure. Thank you. Bye.
Next item. This is the Far West Design Review, proposed demolition of a one-story institutional use building. This is seeking final approval. This is at 14000 Puritas Avenue. This at the local was approved as presented. And so if Michael is here, or anyone else to speak to this, please sort of identify yourself and I'll swear you in.
I am Michael Cernak with CBH Design.
Okay. Do you solemnly swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth for this matter now in hearing under the penalty of perjury?
I do.
Okay, take it away.
Thank you. Thank you for seeing us today. Now, I would like to share the video or our presentation if I could.
I think they have your slides.
I don't believe they have the latest. So.
Okay.
Sorry, Mr. Cernak, these are the slides that were submitted and we'll proceed with these slides.
Okay. Okay, so these are existing context photos. These actually are not the presentation that we had reviewed previously, but at any rate, so on the left is the existing Rockport branch. So it's at West 140th. Let's go forward. So this is a view from Puritas looking toward the existing library. So what you can see there is the lawn in front is basically going to be the location of the new library. The existing library that you see in the background would be removed or demolished after the new library is built. And then there'll be some coordination with completing the site work to go along with that, including the parking, so that it all ties together quickly or correctly. So, next slide. So again, close-up of existing library. So we'll look to, and hopefully we have these, but we'll look to be relatively consistent with the scale. Obviously the design will be different, but this is not currently a particularly tall structure, which kind of sort of fits with the surrounding buildings, and we'll look to sort of follow that precedent. Side of the existing library. So this shows sort of maybe not from the inside, but maybe some of the more challenged area from the existing building. And while the interior looks pretty reasonable, the back of house that you can't see in many of these photos, maybe there are a few of them, is where the real challenges are. So. There is a Teen Tech Center currently. We will be including this and enhancing this in the new design. It's a great program sponsored by Best Buy, where a lot of equipment is provided, and it's a great place for the teens, especially with the 3 local schools where they gather after school and at different times and create some great projects. So we will enhance this and sort of bring it over to the new building. Again, another view of the Teen Tech Center. So another view of the interior, again, relatively open, reasonable space, and we'll look to make it even better in the new building.
I might ask a favor and do something unusual. I know you're next on the agenda to show the project, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I know we have to take 2 separate motions, the demolition and the project, but for commission members, I think it'd be important to see that before we vote on both separately. So if you don't mind to go forward and go ahead and present the proposed new project, then we can act on both. I just think that makes more sense. So
Sure.
You're next. So if you don't mind to just, we've seen this, but I think it's important that we see what's proposed before we actually vote on the demolition. So do you mind?
Sure. Oh, not at all.
Madam Chair, I need to recuse myself from both. Thank you.
We, so noted. But go ahead and just go to the proposed. I think we've seen enough on the existing. I think we need to see the new project. And let me go back and just read it though, if you want to go back to this. So in addition, and we will take two separate motions, we are seeing the final approval for the Rockport Branch Library new construction at 1400 Puritas. We can see here the conditions that were from the local design review. It was approved, but with conditions, so you can see what they are. So if you can also focus on these in your presentation and how you are addressing them, or if you can't, and we'll go from there. Is anyone else speaking to this, or will you also be the only one?
Kathy Jankowski is with Knight and Stoller. She's our landscape architect. I believe she's here. And John Lang is the Chief Operating Officer of Cleveland Public Library, who's also available. He doesn't necessarily have anything specifically to present, but to address any questions.
Okay, so if you don't mind, I'm going to swear them in too, just in case they want to speak. Do you solemnly swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth for this matter now in hearing under the penalty of perjury?
I do.
Okay. Okay. So you can move pretty quickly through, but really hit the high points, and especially any design review comments that we should know about.
Am I able to share a screen or okay? Well, I guess we'll see what there is. So these were the views that we just went over, so we can probably skip through this section. At least a few of the views. Okay, so this would be an architectural site plan that has since been updated to address some of the comments. So let me try to talk through it again. This isn't really the presentation that we had reviewed previously. These are the drawings that we had sent in. But what you can see here is the new proposed library building, and sort of to the north, it's there's sort of a dashed line that shows where the existing is, just to give you some context. That kind of takes some of the retention area, just to sort of put that in perspective. So what we're proposing is a new drive that enters off of Puritas or West 140th and sort of makes this corner sort of loop, matching about the same amount of parking. The new building is nearly up against Puritas and West 140th to strengthen that corner. As far as some of the specific comments, so that you can't see it, it's difficult to see here, but to the very south, right to the right of the main entrance. So if you see where sort of those arrows are dashed in, going into the main entry. So yeah, where you're there, that's one of the paths, but then to the left of that, yes, thank you. That makes it a little bit easier. You can see where the front entry doors are, and that's really the main entry exit from the building. We've got egress along the north as well, but really the main entry is from the north. And in that entry plaza, one of the design review comments was a request to attempt to increase the green space. And again, so I'm not sure exactly if the landscape plan is included, so I figure we might as well talk about that here. But sort of to the right and to the south of that, there's a planter, sort of that rectangle next to the steps. Basically, we're proposing to essentially double that size, make it much deeper, growing north to the overhang of the building, which is dashed in. So that's to address the one request to increase the landscaping. One of the questions associated with that was about the ability to potentially add trees. There are overhead power lines there, and when we talked through that in design review, they did recognize that there are overhead power lines. So the trees, I think it was understood that trees might not have been realistic, and we did sort of confirm that that's not a good place for trees that can grow and interfere with that. So that's I believe one or two of the comments. On the north of the building, again, there are more of those arrows showing sort of that egress path kind of out of what we're calling the children's garden. Again, a little bit tough to see, but where the building sort of bumps in on the north, there's an egress path, not exactly where the arrows are, but slightly to the left. You can kind of see a little door swing there. But one of the comments was to make that path more interactive with the retention area. It's not really a pond, but it was considered that or viewed that way. So we sort of reworked that walk so that it projects further north, and then it follows the curve of that retention area better, and added some landscaping to go along with that, including a couple benches along that new curved walkway. So we think that we addressed that comment, or maybe two comments as well. And I believe the rest of the comments related to the building signage and the color of the brick. Let's see, a couple of highlights on the right side. You can see that there are two large circles. Really, those are representative of large trees that we're looking to maintain. Sustainability is a big focus from an educational perspective of people who attend the library, especially young people. And LEED Silver at least is a requirement for this building. And so again, we're looking to maintain those trees and make that a focus so that there's a path leading to those trees, that there's intended to be a shade that people can enjoy with some seating underneath. We also have the potential for future growth for a community garden along the north, sort of where the blue box is hiding some of that view, at least in my view, so that we are providing for that for the future. Also, right above sort of that main or that north egress point, and kind of to the left of that are 3 memorial trees that currently exist on site. They're plaqued, they're dedicated, and at least one of them might not be doing so well. So the intention is to relocate those 3, move the plaques and everything, and replace any of those in kind so that we can sort of continue the use there. What that helps to do is to provide a gathering space in the center of the just north of the building, just south of the drive off of West 140th, to make it we think a very desirable place for people to gather for indoor-outdoor sort of activities. So I think those are some highlights here. We'll see what other slides are available. So this looks
Okay,
to
if you
be.
could jump to the renderings and to the design, that would be okay too.
Okay, great. Oh, there is a landscape plan. So again, this was revised a little bit, and Kathy's available to answer some questions as needed. But so
Okay.
up to you if you want to talk about this or go on to the
No, I
renderings.
think you covered it. It's too bad
Okay.
we weren't looking at this one, but let's keep going.
Right. Sorry.
Chair Curry, Adam Davenport's raised his hand as well.
Okay, well, let's keep going. Let's get through first. So go ahead and let's go to the exterior.
Okay,
Okay.
so this is a view from the corner of Puritas, which is sort of along the right, and along the left is West 140th. So this is sort of the main view. Again, building pulled all the way up to the corner. You can see the library signage. One of the things that we didn't get to talk through so much is the reason for this idea of a marquee and a beacon, and the idea that the library signage was supposed to hearken to that and supposed to sort of represent that. We did make some proposed changes to the signage based on those comments, and you can't quite see it here. So we probably can go to the next slide. So this will be a little bit hard to see. So there might be an enlarged one of this. Maybe we could come back to this if there isn't. Yeah, maybe not. Okay. So actually, I think I can hide this little blue thing. Okay, sorry. All right, so the library signage that you can see on the top rendering, which is the south rendering, that shows an appearance of individual bulbs. So that was one of the comments from design review that they just really weren't buying. That marquee look that we were trying to bring into the library signage. So basically what we're proposing is that instead of the individual bulb look, that those would be consistent, right? So that basically lensed sort of individual. So same shape, Potentially, somebody suggested that we could potentially have different colors. We could do that, but at the very least, we would intend for these to be white, lit lensed elements that make up that same shape of a library sign. So we think that that addresses their intention there, or their concerns about that. Other signage in view 2, so just down below that is yes, so there's the logo with the verbiage of Cleveland Public Library, and that would be a pin-mounted sign that's backlit. So.
Okay. Thank you. If you don't mind going back to the rendering while we discuss this, or the site plan, we'll see. But Matt, if you want to go ahead first.
I believe that was Adam.
Or Adam, sorry, not Matt.
No problem.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just want to give some context for the local DR committee review. They saw all these slides as well, so maybe Michael sent them in after the deadline, or somehow they weren't added afterwards with the updated ones. But the DR committee was comfortable with approving the shown materials here, and having staff review the conditions afterwards. So just wanted to highlight that. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Any other comments or anything from any of the council people or anything? Commission members, any comments or questions about the proposed new, and then we'll take both motions.
Oh, Madam Chair, not particularly. I just wanted to make a comment about what we see. I don't think it's necessary to see all these technical drawings. I mean, we're here for planning. It'd be nice if these presentations were tighter, in my opinion.
Yep, agree. I think they can clean that up. I think there's sort of the design presentations versus the super technical drawings, but I think, Director, we can sort of let this develop and clean this up as things evolve. So thank you. Commission members, if there isn't any other comments or questions, I think first we'll take a motion on the demolition of the existing library first, and then we'll take a motion on the new library design with the conditions from local design review.
I move to accept the presentation to demolish that building.
I second.
Thank you. Motion and a second. Any other comments? Okay, let's take the roll.
Luker,
Yes.
Curry,
Yes.
McCray Scott,
Yes.
Hall,
Yes.
Slife.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carries. Any other comments or questions from the commission members on the proposed design? Okay, if I could have a motion from someone.
Move to approve design as presented with stated stipulations from design review concerning placement of site work and signage.
We have a motion and a second. Only other comment I'll make is that obviously demolition of the building, it's not in terrible shape, but understand why this is necessary. But I do like now that the library will hold the corner. I think that's really nice. I do like that there'll be outdoor space, and I personally like the design quite a bit. I think it's handsome in trying to make a low-rise building feel very prominent. So I want to sort of commend you on sort of the level of design for a small library branch that will feel really appropriate here. So my comment. Anyone else like to make a comment? Let's call the roll.
I'd like to say this is awesome because this was my library branch when I was raised on the west side. So this is a great improvement.
All right, August should come to the opening. Then he should be coming to the opening. So, all right, let's take the roll.
Luker.
Yes.
Curry,
Yes.
McCray Scott,
Yes.
Paul,
Yes.
it's life.
Motion carries. Okay, next item.
Thank you.
Thank you very, very much.
Great. And Chair Curry, if I could just mention that regarding slides, we do not allow screen share for the sake of efficiency and also protection of our process. And I can share more in the director's report about deadlines for when slides should come in. Thank you.
Okay, sure. Thank you very much. Near West Design Review, this is a proposed demolition of a 2.5-story mixed-use building at 4392 State Road. Valencia White here from the city of Cleveland. I do not need to swear you in unless there's someone else speaking to this.
No, it's just me.
Okay, welcome.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. I'm going to try and be as brief as possible.
Okay.
So, next slide. This is the property that we're proposing for demolition. It's located at 5392 State Road. Next slide. So the current owner is a trust. It has been vacant for over 2 years. It was condemned in July 23rd, 2019. Since that time, we have received 10 complaints and 7 board ups. The taxes that are outstanding are $19,071.86, which includes our grass cutting costs and our board up fees. Councilman Chris Harsh is in support of this demolition. And our final site plan is to clear the land, grade it, and seed it in accordance with our city specifications. Next slide. So this is the site in context. As you can see, there are schools nearby. There's local businesses and residents. Next slide. This is more context where the red dot is. The upper part shows a convenience store, a Save More Mart, and then the lower part shows that this property is in between a West Side deli. Next slide. These external photos were, taken on April 1st of 2021, and they were taken by one of our surveyors, NILA Environmental Group. So it shows the front, the left, right side, and the bottom middle is the rear of this property. Next slide. These show the driveway leading to the garage, and the bottom photo shows the garage. Next slide. So these are the surrounding properties. The top photo, you can see the proposed structure for demolition in the top photo to your left. And then that is the Save More convenience store. And the bottom photo shows the other convenience store that's located next to it. And again, you can see the proposed property for demolition in that photo as well. Next slide. These are the properties that are across the street. And this is a meat market, M&W Meats. And then the 2 houses to the right are owned by the same person. It's a small business and then their residents. Those 2 are both maintained well. Next slide. So this is Unit 1, and this is the 2 top green rooms are what you see when you enter the property from State Road. And then the other photos show the interior of that Unit 1. Next slide. These photos show the stairway leading up to Unit 2, and then the conditions inside of Unit 2. You can see there is some deterioration in Unit 2, and then he's moving faster than I am. It's okay. Unit 3, these are the interior photos for Unit 3, stairway and internal photos. Next slide. So this is the photos of the attic, which shows the stairway to the attic and their HVAC system. Next slide. These are the photos of the basement with the stairways for both entrances. And then the next slide. This is our final slide. And again, we just want to clear the land and seed it per our city specifications. And I'll open the floor for all of you for any questions you may have.
Thank you very much. Commission members? Any
I move
questions?
I move approval. Downing.
I second McCray Scott.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. Any further comment? Okay. Thank you very much. Let's call the roll.
Downing,
Yes.
Luker,
Yes.
Curry,
Yes.
McCray Scott,
Yes.
Hall,
Yes.
Life.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you all.
you
Have
very
a good
much.
day.
Okay. The next item is Near West Design Review case. This is the Metro Health Campus Transformation.
Dr. Curry,
This
if I
is-
could step in and make a few comments around, Drew, if you could stay on the slide just for 1 second.
Can I just swear them in first real quick?
Yes, go ahead. Thank you.
Yes, so this is seeking conceptual design approval, 2500 Metro Health Drive. Anyone who is here to speak from Metro Health or from any organization in about the project, if you could please, if I could swear you in together. So do you swear? Sure. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, as you shall answer to the penalty of perjury?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
And yes.
Okay, 3 yeses. All right, Director Wong, give us some context, please.
Sure, thank you. So this proposal came to the Near West Design Review on March 9th, 2022. And this particular agenda item was tabled then due to 2 concerns, one being procedural, in terms of community engagement and wanting to see more engagement through the process, as well as the demolition initially of 3 buildings, including the Farnsworth House, the Belarusian Church, and then finally the Trinity Church. Since then, this agenda item has returned to design review on April 13th, 2022 with an amended proposal. I also want to mention that the agenda item is written, as you see on the screen, because of the Institutional Research Zoning Code, which is found in section 340.06 regarding site plan and design review. So embedded in this is the agenda item is shown as a campus transformation update to their plan, including the proposed demolition of the 2 buildings and seeking conceptual design approval of the proposed park. So I'll see if Matt Moss has any additional comments. Otherwise, we'll just go ahead and share the presentation.
Okay, I'm going to ask for this matter that I know we have 2 items. We have the kind of a conceptual approval, and then we also have a demolition and a second agenda item. So what I'd ask for the presenters is to obviously cover that within this presentation. We will take 2 separate motions, but just one presentation, if you will, that sets the whole context. I also believe there will be some other people who would like to make any public comments. I ask that you hold them till the end. We're going to ask the presenters to get through first, and then we'll open it up if there might be any additional public comment. So with that, I'll turn it over to Metro Health.
Thank you very much. Good morning, everyone. My name is Greg Zuka. I am the Director of Economic and Community Development for the Metro Health System. We're going to go first, give an overview of the campus as was presented, and then talk about our interim park proposal and the demolitions that we are requesting to move forward on that. First, I want to present here that, this is what the campus master plan looks like as of 2026. As you can see, we're staying within the footprint of our 52-acre campus and adding approximately 25 acres of green space, with the centerpiece being a future 12-acre community park. If you go to the next slide. So you see here labeling many of the buildings that many are completed, but some are still in process. The Glick Center, which is the new hospital tower, that is due to be completed in October of this year. We are on schedule for that. Currently completed is also our new central utility plant and new employee parking garage. Also, you'll see on the bottom, we have two buildings currently under construction, a new visitor parking garage that will be accessed off of our View Road, which goes through the back end of the campus, as well as the construction of a new future outpatient building. When that building is completed, it will then open up our opportunity to demolish the old outpatient pavilion, which currently sits between West 25th Street and Scranton Road, which then opens up 12 acres of land for a future park. Also, we understand that, really the transformation is not just about, the campus or the doctor's office or the hospital, but it's also really about how we address the overall social determinants of health and the health and well-being of the communities that we serve. And so primarily for that reason, we've also looked at ways that we can help to support housing and economic and community development. So you see as part of this master plan are 3 development projects. One is currently underway via SANA, which is an affordable housing project, which actually sits on the Metro Health campus. So we're providing affordable housing on our campus. And then secondly, are 2 future senior housing development projects that we're currently in a pre-development stage right now. You can go to the next slide. So what we're here today to discuss is an opportunity actually to do a initial piece of the 12-acre park. And this would be an interim green space akin to Lincoln Park in Tremont. So it's going to be more of a grass walkway, benches, and seating areas, picnic areas, as opposed to a very planned and programmed space. Just for reference purposes, we are working, though, currently on the future 12-acre park, partnering with Land Studio and also getting guidance from the Cleveland Metro Parks as we are working to issue an RFP for this 12-acre park. We'll also discuss in a couple slides the preservation of Trinity Church as part of that plan for community use and community purposes, as well as show a future or a current plan to construct a new entryway into the campus for access to the visitor parking garage. You go to the next slide. So this is really the current state of the area that we're here to talk to today. As you can see, it's a surface parking lot, a Cleveland Public Power substation, 2 vacant buildings, and a building that we're currently using as offices for the Turner Construction as they are constructing many of the buildings on our campus. The other thing I want to note, too, is the current state is that there is no pedestrian pathway in this segment to get from West 25th Street to Scranton Road. So if you're a pedestrian getting off on the bus on West 25th, you would have to traverse through a surface parking lot to get to the entrance of the new Glick Center, as well as the new outpatient building. You can go to the next slide. So what we're proposing to do, and also I should mention, there's no vehicular way to enter into the campus either at this park. So we are proposing, again, you could see we're going to be looking at creating an interim green space, interim park that will create pedestrian pathways to the new buildings, as well as, again, as I said, create some spaces for sitting and picnicking and benches and walking. We're also in the process of constructing a vehicular entryway in the pink area shown so that vehicles will be able to access the new visitor parking garage. Next slide. So this is a view of the new roundabout that would be created for vehicles at the intersection of West 25th and I-71. What this provides, again, is entryway into the campus to that parking garage, but it also acts as a way of traffic calming along West 25th Street. Presently, visitors, employees, and patients are accessing the campus by Metro Health Drive, which is 3 blocks to the north, or South Point Drive, and it really creates a lot of congestion along West 25th Street right in front of the campus, especially during shift changes. This new access road to Scranton allows for calming of that traffic and having one central point for employees and visitors to access the parking facilities. This is also showing, and you can go to the next slide, where the buildings would be, the 2 vacant buildings would be demolished, and we would then create a 3-acre parkway, a park. Again, it's not the final design of the 12-acre park, but it is an interim park that we can have in place before the end of this year that would be in place for the next 4 years while we work towards completing the 12-acre park. And I just want to make a note that, you know, again, we've been, as the director had said, we've been engaging a lot of conversations with the community, working very closely with the community ambassadors, not only through the Clark Fulton Together master planning effort to come up with a conceptual design for the 12-acre park, but also as we start to build this RFP to make sure that we have public input as we look to hire a design firm that will create, take that conceptual plan from the master plan to reality so that we can implement and build it hopefully beginning at the end of 2024 or 25, so that it would be completed by 26. You can go to the next slide. So that conceptual plan really looks at the full 12 acres and really looks to create it as an active green space, really kind of creating a front porch or a living room, if you will, between the campus and the neighborhood. Again, this was part of the 2-year process for the Us Together plan that was adopted by the Planning Commission last October. And you can see that when you're dealing with a size of 12 acres, which is analogous to the mall downtown, it's really important to make sure that the spaces are brought to the human scale and programmed in a way that makes sense. You go to the next slide. Next slide. Okay. So this is, again, from the Us Together master plan effort. These are renderings of what some of the spaces in that 12 acres is going to look like. Again, we are working with Land Studio and the Cleveland Metro Parks to draft a RFP that would be looking to take these concepts and bring them to a point where we can do a design build process and actually begin construction. We're going to be actually holding a community meeting next week to begin to look at these conceptual plans and start to put into the RFP some of the ideas and desires that the community wants to see from a final park design. Addition to that, we will also be including in that scope of work preservation of Trinity Church and how we can use that church for community purposes. Thus far, we've had suggestions such as an art gallery or a youth center or just a space to have for meetings for the general community and the general public. So all of that information will be included in the RFP process. So I just wanted to kind of give an overview of, again, the master plan of the campus and how the neighborhood master plan has fed into that, and our proposal for an interim park, which we will be coming back for a final approval back to the Planning Commission at a later date, hopefully on May 20th. But today we're bringing forward the proposal for a conceptual park and the demolition of 2 vacant buildings in order to make that come to fruition. So with that, I will hand it over to Brad.
Next slide. So I'm Brad Fink, architect with the Perspective CBLH design team. Next slide. So the second piece of this, as Greg mentioned, is the enabling step of the demolition of the residence at 3517 Scranton and the church, the Masonry Church at 3518 Scranton. What you'll see, the residence is the block on the bottom left, closest to West 25th, and then the church is closest to Scranton at the right of that site plan. There's some existing photos of the exterior at the top of the page, the church along the very top, and then the front, back, and sides of the house at the middle. Next slide. Actually, one other comment, part of that demolition also includes removal of sidewalks. There's a parking lot, and then the protection and salvaging of the existing trees where possible. Next slide. Some images of the residence from the exterior and then the interior conditions of the vacant residence. Next slide. And then some images of the church, most recently used as a shop, currently vacant. And you can see some of the images from inside the church there. Demolitions include both everything above grade and the removal of foundations and basement as well. One of the comments from the committee members, the condition for final approval was for the sustainable demolition and evaluating elements for salvaging. And Sarah O'Keefe with Metro Health will say a few words about that. Next slide.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you. Sarah O'Keefe, Sustainability at the Metro Health System. Next slide, please. So just some context about our goals on sustainability for the campus transformation project. In 2018, we established an 80% diversion rate for C&D debris for our major projects, and a couple of facts here that we are achieving that on our Glick Center C&D recycling rates. Now, this is after, as a part of construction, we have diverted this from the landfill, 89% in 2020, 89.6% in 2021. The Prentice demolition is an enabling project for our Apex outpatient tower. We're also achieving above 80%. Just the C&D waste there was diverted 85.7%. In addition to that, we did our decommissioning, deconstruction, and some donations, a concerted effort by our construction team, and we were able to divert 60,000 pounds of other materials. And there's a little bit of a note here on, excuse me, additional community benefit from the campus transformation project, although it's not, sorry everybody, although it's not part of C&D demolition, we were able to divert a lot of clean fill from our site to the Clark Fields. So we have the context of diverting usable materials as much as possible for the benefit of the community. Could you go to the next slide, please? Here are some notes on the most recent, and Brad already referenced this a little bit, most recent prior uses of these 2 structures, the house, the Farnsworth House, acquired in 2016 from the Land Bank by Metro Health. I'm not going to read through all the notes. I think that you probably had an opportunity to do that. But the historical notes referenced by Mr. Farnsworth are mostly about Mr. Farnsworth himself and the occupant versus the building. There aren't really any notes on the architectural components of the house. And for the church acquired in 2021 by Metro Health, the historical note there on architecture is about the onion dome. It was noted as being attractive, I think.
Yeah, and I'm sorry, Sarah, if I could just jump in. So I failed to mention that as part of the park design, we will be preserving the steeple or onion dome of the church and integrating it into the park design. Again, you know, similar as a central feature of this interim park. So that will be incorporated into this design.
Yes, if you could go to the next slide, please. So in our steps for assessing the reuse, as Greg already mentioned, we have the reuse of the church onion dome in the park space, the temporary park space. And as a part of determining the other uses within the buildings, the architectural components, we had, of course, an environmental assessment completed for the hazards of asbestos-containing materials and lead-based paint, et cetera. And then we also invited a reuse seller to visit the house and go through with us. And the summary of the findings are below. We're still evaluating removal, but we have found already a donor, or a donee, I should say, for all of the furniture that's in there and is still usable. We have a few other items that we're evaluating, making sure that they can be safely removed. And then we're going to go on from there and see if we can find some buyers. A lot of the things would not be general public reuse. So that's where we are at the moment, and we're going to have a detailed plan later on. That's all I have.
Thank you. Sorry, is the presentation complete?
Yes.
Okay. Before we open it up for comment, both to the public and then to commission members, I'm going to ask the director to say a few words about the process and from the administration. And then I see that Commission Member Fluker has some comments, and Jennifer Kipp. So let's have Joyce, Director Wong, go first, and then I will open this up to the public.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I did attend the public meeting that was held about a month ago, and I was there to listen, observe, and really take in the residents' intentions and desires. And I will share that there were many opinions about this particular plan, ranging from very strong opinions about, saving all the buildings or pausing the demo, all the way to, a small minority that said, knock them all down, we just want to park. And I would say that the core 80% of the residents that were there, who either I spoke to individually or was watching their body language and reactions, their opinions really were that they wanted a park in the community, and that the core 80% were satisfied with the proposal that Metro Health has shared to preserve Trinity Church as a community space, which will include the demolition of the two other buildings. I do want to acknowledge that there is a cost to demolition. I really think very seriously about it, especially with these religious structures that are in our city. And I think as I weighed the options and the proposal, I really felt that while there's a cost, that the benefit of the green space to the residents that has been desired for so long outweighs that particular cost. And so the benefit then would be 3 to 4 years of a park in advance of the permanent park and the rehabilitation of Trinity. So I think in this case, hearing the residents and the majority of the design review, who also agreed and approved, there was much discussion, much deliberation. We all took it very seriously. Ultimately, I do recommend the conceptual approval of the updated master plan, which includes the park and the demolition of the two buildings.
Okay, thank you. Before I turn it over to commission members and August, if you don't mind, I will open it to the public. First, I wanted to ask if the councilwoman was here, or if there were any letters or comments from her that could be stated.
Chair Curry, she was unable to make it due to a family issue, but she did send a letter. And if I could, I'll just summarize the paragraphs that she sent, which included that while she, had some concerns about the process, she worked hard to make sure the community meeting happened. And the majority of residents that she spoke to voiced that it was a unique and exciting opportunity to build a park within walking distance from their homes. And reiterating the fact that there has always been a desire for a park on West 25th Street. And, that desire was incorporated into the Clark-Fulton Together Master Plan. And she believes this new park will serve as a gathering space for community, patients, visitors to promote health, well-being, and resilience. And she did share her hope that Metro Health will continue to obtain feedback and input from local residents for the development of the permanent green space.
Okay, thank you. With that, I'm going to open it up. If there's anyone from the public who'd like to comment, please raise your hand and I'll have Michael or someone actually call on you, just because I can't see who that is, if that would be okay.
Michael, I believe Drew has put in the comment box an order for which people raise their hands.
Yes, Commissioner Fluker would be the first commenter.
If you don't mind, I'd like to take the public first and then the commission members right after that.
That would be Bob Garden.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. So I am member of the Near West Design Review Committee, one of the 2 out of the 9 that oppose the demolitions. Also the founder and co-chair of the Jones Home Historic District adjacent to Metro Health Campus, and as you know, executive director of Big Creek Connects. Before I spend too much time, I wanted to ask the chair. I know she received my letter and the 2 attachments. Were those shared with the committee, the other committee?
They were shared.
Okay, so I don't need.
Yeah, you don't need to read them.
Right.
I would say just kind of very briefly sort of summarize. Your opinion,
So
please.
basically, in addition to conserving the 2 buildings, I wanted to note first off that the Belarusian church, it was purchased by Metro Health for $500,000 when it was already being repurposed. And then they want to demolish it. I think the biggest takeaways is number 1, for 3 years or more, the Near West Design Review Committee, I heard also too with that master plan committee, we're told that nothing's been decided on the park space. When we saw concept plans showing the buildings not existing, they said, don't worry, nothing's been decided, we'll get to that. And then 5 days prior to our Near West Design Review, they had the proposal to demolish the buildings. So there really wasn't the adequate public input. The meeting that we had a couple of weeks ago, it was pretty much directed by Metro Health. There wasn't equal time. I looked like I was some outrageous opposition to the proposal. So basically, it's in addition to conserving the buildings, the issue is the access, the need for a traffic study for the larger 12 acres. I don't know anyone that's opposed to the park space, and I think that's pretty misleading when the argument's made that everyone wants parks, but well, of course we do. The question that we brought up is that, for the temporary 3 acres, let's look at the whole 12 acres before we do a temporary 3 acres, demolish the small percentage of that park space. We calculate it's about 4% of the 12 acres. By comparison, Tremont's Lincoln Park is 9 acres, right? So that's the issue we're bringing up. So it's not that, we don't want park space. Of course we do. It's that we need to look at the whole plan comprehensively. Let's not hastily go to demolish those 2 buildings, and look at incorporating them as an anchor to the whole southern part of the park, kind of like a campus feel that could really add to the quality of the larger park space to the north. So the 3 arguments for parking. For the traffic study was parking, because the argument was made that there wouldn't be parking for the 2 other buildings. If you were to realign that parking spot, that entrance with Daisy Avenue, where a light could be transferred, the other being that South Point Drive, it is removed. Now you don't have Marvin, you could probably take away Woodbridge and put a traffic signal at Daisy where it's much more needed. And then of course, coming out of at Daisy Avenue, you have 3 streets, the volume of traffic trying to make a left or a right, with traffic trying to enter I-71.
Well, thank you very much.
So that's pretty my arguments, and I hope that the commission considers what I had sent in regards to the 2 buildings and the traffic study and the timing with everything. Thanks.
Okay, thank you very much. Any other hands raised?
Yes. Member Fluker, Matt Moss, or the next with their hands raised.
Okay, so, but since there isn't any other public comment, I would like to kind of close the public portion. And
Also, sorry, Chair Curry, I forgot once already earlier in the meeting, and I don't want to make the same mistake twice. Jennifer Kipp had some comments as well.
okay, okay.
And I don't know if she wanted to speak up or just do it by text, but she put it in the chat.
Okay, so Jennifer, and then we'll close the public portion.
Hi, good morning, everyone. Thank you. Yeah, I just wanted to I made a comment in the chat that for all of the plans that I've seen so far, I want to just make sure that everybody on the call is aware of the tree protection, tree preservation ordinance. And if everyone on the call has also received the tree preservation plan checklist, which basically outlines what type of project would prompt the need for a tree preservation plan and what urban forestry needs to see. So that's one comment. The next comment is, if the plan does require a tree preservation plan, then work with me to submit that. And hopefully you all have my email, or I can put it in the chat if need be. So it is definitely challenging to make all these meetings. So forgive me if people have reached out to me and separately. Let me know and feel free to chastise me for being unresponsive if need be, because I don't want to hold up any plans or projects that are, in the final stages of approval. But I do want to make sure everyone is aware of the importance of preserving our tree canopy and needing a permit before you do any kind of removal, even if it's on your private property.
Okay, thank you for that reminder, and we'll make sure Metro Health follows up with you on that matter directly. All right, we're going to close the public portion. Maybe if there's one more staff comment before August, I turn it to you. Was there one additional staff comment?
Yes, Madam Chair. I just want to comment briefly on some of the items that were important at the local design review committee that I think are relevant for the commission. In the presentation, Metro Health demonstrated a lot of the investments they're making on their campus. It is a large, comprehensive transformation, and they're doing a lot of hard work to make that happen. I just want to make sure that we're focusing as well, and that there's equity and consideration of the pedestrian improvements, particularly with the proposed plan for the park. One thing we want to make sure we see between now and final approval are improvements for the bus stops at this location. While we are working with Metro Health and RTA and the other stakeholders in the area on the 25 Connects plan and the implementation of that, the anticipated completion for that is sometime in 2025, 2026. And there's currently an active high frequency bus line on West 25th, and 2 stops would be located along this park. So we want to make sure that those improvements are made to make sure that's a high quality experience for people who use transit in this area, just in their day-to-day lives, but also to access Metro Health. There's a lot of investment that you've seen made for access via car or some other vehicle like that, but we're still waiting, I think, for those parity of improvements to be made to the pedestrian and transit users. So I just want to make sure that you're aware of that. There was a fatality here in someone crossing the street in 2019 to access crossing from the west side to the east side to Metro Health's campus, as well as several serious injuries over the last 5 years on West 25th. So this is something that's really important to us, especially as we move towards implementing a Vision Zero action plan. So understanding that this is a conceptual approval, I just wanted to underscore those needed items and I think areas of attention, understanding that there's a wide variety of needs and expectations and demands here that command your attention. So just wanted to share that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, we're going to close and open it to commission members, and Commission Member Fluker, you've been waiting patiently, so take it away.
Thanks, Madam Chair. Three points I'd like to make. First, I'd like to commend Metro Health for bringing in Land Studio and also considering an RFP process to bring others in. Obviously, your job is healthcare, and there's people out there who understand how to plan equitably in the neighborhoods of color. The second thing I would like to sort of echo and it's been mentioned a couple of times, but I'd like to underscore this because it's been on top of my list, is the fact that 2 crosswalks that are, I don't know how many feet apart, it's not going to make it. It's not going to make it. You need to really look at how people are going to cross, and people aren't going to walk 500 feet or 1,000 feet to a crosswalk. You really need to consider how people, pedestrians, cross Scranton. And I don't think there's spindly crosswalks that are going to solve the problem, in my humble opinion. And lastly, and more importantly, as Jennifer brought up about the tree canopy, we need to figure out the process. We can't adjudicate a tree canopy in planning or design. It should be part of the process. Thank you.
Thank you. And maybe whoever makes the motion, I think if there is a motion that the crosswalks and the details in kind of context around that in the next, before final, I think it's really important. So any other commission members that would like to make any comments? Okay, so I think we'll need a motion, and this is one motion. Actually, I was wrong in the beginning. It would be one motion for the overall conceptual master plan as well as the demolition.
Madam Chair, I move approval for the conceptual master plan and the demolition, incorporating the comments regarding the study of crosswalks and the adherence to the tree canopy regulations.
Okay, we have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second, Fluker.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Can we have the roll, please, Michael?
Sure. Downing,
Yes.
Fluker,
Yes.
Curry,
Yes.
McCray Scott,
Yes.
Hall,
Yes.
Slythe.
Yes.
Motion carries. Thank you very much. Okay, we're a little bit behind, so we're going to speed it up just a tad, but I want to thank everyone for the thorough presentation. They're a very important project for the region. So the next item is East Design Review, proposed demolition of a one-story outbuilding, 6449 Union Avenue. And we have Mary here from Lighting, Demolition, and Excavating. Can I swear you in, please? Mary? Or someone for this project?
Yes, I'm sorry. Good morning.
Okay. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth as you shall answer to the penalty of perjury?
I do.
Okay, you can move pretty quickly.
Well, the stipulations for demolition on the last meeting was to replace all fencing along Morgana Trail with black vinyl covered 6-foot chain link fence and demolition to grade concrete slab. I have a question now. Is the concrete slab to be demolished, or is that to remain?
I'm going to assume it's to be removed, but if you want to show us the presentation, that's a requirement of curbs, all slabs, curbs, basement slabs should all be removed by code, but maybe run through it real quick.
Okay, so this is the 6449 Union Avenue. The previous cold storage, I know it had a backup area for the trucks. So the slab is actually 3 foot above grade, and it's a 30 by 40 building, so it's very small. Bear with me because, okay, so next slide. How would I do that? Bear with me. Okay, there we go. Thank you. This is the front of the building, and the interior. The bottom picture is the interior. It's just wood debris, some tires, and such. Again, these are the interior pictures. The roof is in really bad condition. another interior. Okay, so this is the east of the building and then west. The east of the building is the field, and this is the west side of the building where it's just a parking lot for the building in the front, which is a auto sales business. This is the front looking towards Union Avenue on the top, and then the bottom is actually the rear of the building. These trailers have been here for quite some time, and behind the larger trailer is Morgana Trail.
Okay, I think what I'm going to ask, so I think this is helpful, is staff to please clarify the local comments and that they are addressed before we act on this.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is Nicole Calhoun, City Planning Commission for the East Design Review facilitator. They did ask that the concrete be removed. And also, if they were planning to extend their business, that it would have to be, they would have to come back for actual pavement of the ground so that they would not be storing cars back there.
Okay. So just to clarify, we're approving the demolition, the removal of all the concrete and slab and seeding and grading, correct?
That is correct.
Okay. Okay. And is that understood by the applicant?
Yes.
Okay. All right, commission members?
Madam Chair, I move approval with the stipulation that all of the concrete be removed and that the parcel then be seeded to grade.
And I second.
Okay, and in addition, I know it doesn't need to be part of our motion, but the local around a kind of a black vinyl, not just a straight chain link fence around Morgana Run is really important as well. So I don't think you need to add that to the motion. I just wanted to clarify that that was part of this proposed to not have straight chain link fence. Okay, let's vote. We have a motion and a second.
Madam Chair.
Yes.
I do want to acknowledge that there is a part of the fence that may be in disrepair, which is why it was written up that way, so that when they remove the building, that something is placed there in its place.
Okay. So if you don't mind, then I'm going to ask that maybe be added to the motion that there would be a vinyl coated chain link fence to Morgana Run.
So, Madam Chair, I would amend my motion to include that a black vinyl chain link fence be added in the area near Morgana Run.
Okay. Can we have a second from the second? Did we have a second?
I second. Stami.
All right, Stami, thank you for the second. All right, let's take the roll.
Downing,
Yes.
Fluker,
Yes.
Curry,
Yes.
McCray Scott,
Yes.
Paul,
Yes.
Slife.
Yes.
Motion carries. Next item. This is the East Design Review, Cleveland Scholar House, multifamily residential new construction. This is 10327-08 near Community College. Is Brian here?
I am.
Okay. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth as you shall answer to the penalty of perjury?
I do.
Although I think you already sworn in. All right, I'm going to ask really move quickly. We just really need the site plan and the exterior and the addressing the comments.
Let's move to the slides. Next slide, please. This is Cleveland Scholar House located on Community College Avenue. The site plan aerial here shows it next to the William Patrick Day Childhood, an undeveloped parcel, but it has been developed with the Sankofa Village housing development to the east. which we will see some context images of. We move on to the next slide. This Scholar House project is a low-income housing tax credit project intended to house young adults with children, and those young adults have the stipulation of having been enrolled in higher education. It's right across the street from Tri-C. So you can see on the context photos, Sankofa Village up at the top, to the east, and then to the west at the bottom photos, the William Patrick Day Center and the St. Vincent Charity Medical Center. The next slide is the south side of Community College with Tri-C at the bottom. Next slide. So this is a site plan showing the future development. So Sankofa Village development with Scholar House in the U-shaped form. The proposed development of the right-of-way immediately to the east of the property, which is in process right now. It's not been fully realized, but it is in process with the city and the county. So you can see it matches the front setback of the adjacent properties, and we've taken some architectural cues from that to try to provide a consistent front. Moving on to the next slide. So this is the parcel just rotated counterclockwise 90 degrees. We do have one driveway off of Community College Avenue to a the private parking lot, which is also serving a dedicated daycare on the first floor. And the daycare is intended to give priority to the children who are residents of the apartment building. So the primary residential access and entrance is to the north, which is on the left-hand side. There is a primary public entrance off of Community College on the right-hand side. There is dedicated playground space in the kind of inside elbow of the building. The orange dashed lines are decorative metal fencing. The daycare is required to have secured outdoor play space separate from outdoor play space for the apartment building. Next slide, please. This is a colored rendering of the front elevation on Community College. So some of the comments from design review were relative to the canopy feeling dark and heavy. We revised the color scheme and the size to reflect a lighter, more open canopy. There were also comments about providing more glazing on the ground floor to represent that commercial, activating that ground floor. On the left-hand side would be the daycare, and on the right-hand side are offices, front desk spaces. I think addressing those comments, we've provided storefront, full height storefront, and I think the rendering that design review had reviewed, which you'll see here in just a minute, had a lot of landscaping kind of blocking those. So I think it gave a bit of a false front. On the bottom, you see a context photo of, or context rendering of what would be Scholar House, the new right-of-way, and then the existing Sankofa Village or Cedar Phase 3. So you can see we did take some cues, architectural cues, gable ends and brick material, those types of things. Next slide, please. There it is. So this is the rendering that design review had seen. You'd see that the canopy had really kind of disappears. It's not emphasized, and then the landscaping of the rendering really kind of de-emphasizes the glazing. So we feel we've addressed those comments. And this is another rendering from Community College looking up the driveway, the private drive. Next slide, please. And these are images from the north inside the parking lot and from the right-of-way looking back towards kind of the residential entrance. And these are the materials, primarily brick, some stone, and siding. Be happy to answer any questions.
Okay. Any questions, commission members or staff?
Could I clarify also, so we did receive, I think schematic approval from design review, but based on these comments, I would request consideration for final approval.
Okay. I think that that is possible, and if we do that, we would refer the final sign off to staff, and they'd only need to come back here if there was an issue. So, commission members, I'll leave it up to you if you'd like to do that.
I move to approve for final, with the stipulation that the applicant work with staff to reconcile any outstanding issues relative to their proposal.
And I'll second.
Okay,
Downing.
thank you. A motion and a second. Michael, can you call the roll?
Downing,
Yes.
Fluker,
Yes.
Curry,
Yes.
McCray Scott,
Yes.
Paul,
Yes.
Slife.
Yes.
Motion carries. So thank you. And I think this is really appropriate to do final approval. So I want to say that. August, you might be conflicted because wasn't that a project of your past adjacent? So you should have noted your conflict. I'm just kidding. I saw that. All right, next item.
Thank you.
Chair Curry, I just want to commend CHN and Hitty Architects for doing a great project, a much needed project for families, specifically low-income families who are seeking higher education. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Director.
Thank you. Thank you. All right, next item. We are now to our current agenda. And so we're going to move through, especially some that require permits quickly. So this is the agenda for May 6th, 2022. Next slide. Southeast Design Review. This is Second Zion Spiritual Temple new construction. This is final approval. 12721 Union Avenue. If Aaron is here from City Architecture, I'll need to swear you in.
Madam Chair, before you begin, I must recuse myself. Thank you.
Noted. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, as you shall answer to the penalty of perjury?
I do.
Okay. Aaron, as I said, it's the final approval, and we have the design review approved it. So really site plan, exterior. Thanks.
All right, if we can get into the slides. You can go to the next slide. So Second Zion's a new church building in the Union Miles neighborhood. Church has been a part of this neighborhood for more than 40 years. It's a really exciting project for the congregation. They've been fundraising and preparing for this for a number of years. Their old church was on the same site that we're looking at for the new church. It's already been demoed in preparation for the new vision. So they're really looking forward to getting out of their temporary location and coming back home. So the project, if you want to go, you can kind of flip through the next couple slides to the site plan. The project is on Union and East 128th Street. You can keep going. Keep going to some context photos. Next slide. Keep going. All right, so the building anchors the corner of the site here with the parking wrapping back behind the building, including some landscaping, some privacy fencing for the neighbors, and some site lighting as well. Part of the landscaping, a little bit of landscaping buffer for the parking, also providing a little bit of kind of a plaza off of the community room, as well as a memorial garden on the site. I'm going to go to the next slide. This is the lighting plan. Keep going. The next three slides are just some images of the landscaping. So you can flip through those. And the next slide. So just a quick programmatic, it's essentially a sanctuary, community room, support spaces, having kind of three main entrances, one off of Union, one off of the parking lot, and then kind of a secondary entrance for the community room off of the small plaza, which allows the kind of programming to spill out outside and serve the community in that way. It's a prefab steel building, looking to add a little bit of interest with color and texture. highlighting the entries with some accenting and signage and lighting, some limited glazing for natural lighting, but while also being kind of sensitive to some security issues they've had on the site previously. If you want to go to the next slide, just more about the materials. Keep going. So the next few 3D views, you can kind of flip through these just to kind of give you a feel for the site, the concept, how it kind of fits into the context. And then on the last view, one more, you can get kind of a feel for how that that community room space can fill out onto the small plaza for some community events out on the site. With that, I'll open it up for you guys' questions.
Commission members, any questions or comments? I'd like to say I like the design actually quite a bit. It's really nice design. And I'm sure the answer is yes to my question, but has there been outreach to those two property owners? And
Yeah, they've been in constant communication with them.
Okay, and they're aware and they understand.
Yep.
Plan. Okay. Thank you. Commission members?
Move for approval. And I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further comment before we vote? Okay. Michael?
Downing.
Yes.
I'm sorry. Curry.
Yes.
McCray Scott.
Yes.
Paul.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Motion carries. Thank you very much. Next item. Next item is Lake Avenue multifamily new construction. This is schematic design approval, 8400 Lake Avenue. This was approved with conditions. It notes that we granted conceptual approval, so this is schematic approval. They came in on March 2nd. And so who's here to speak to this? Brandon?
Madam Chair, before we swear in, the team, they're requesting final approval today due to the missed meeting on April 22nd.
Okay. As long as I think we can address the design review comments, and then the rest we can leave to staff if it makes sense, but I'll leave it up to my commission members. Brandon, is there anyone else with you?
Hi,
Yeah,
this
Brad
is
Nosen is with us.
I'm representing the developer.
Pat Thornton from Sixmo and Hannah Cohen from Canez.
Okay. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth as you shall answer to the penalty of perjury?
I do.
Yes,
I do.
Including the young children in the background. I'll swear them in as well. I'm just kidding. Go ahead, Brandon.
Yeah, I'll try to go through this pretty quick. We did submit and gain final approval from design review this week. So we did get final approval from them with some conditions, which we're happy to work through. I'll kind of highlight those. We can quickly flip through slides. I think everyone's very familiar with the site and project as we've presented it before. The site's located on 8400 Lake Avenue. The front portion of the site is 3 sets of townhomes with the 7-story apartment building in the back half of the site. Might be a lag on my screen of which slide's on the screen right now.
You could let me know which slide you're.
We can just go to a site plan. I'll just do this really quickly to highlight. We received pretty positive feedback from all the neighborhoods, the residents, and design review. The only major 2 comments that we received from design review was replacement of some ornamental trees to heavier shade trees in the open courtyard area. We added 3 street trees along Lake Avenue. The other comment was to better integrate the parking deck to the upper structure and essentially try to bring some of the metal panel down from the building. We did note that we're trying to create an open ventilated, naturally ventilated garage. Is at 40% openness. We're at 43.5% openness, but suggested we could maybe use some more metal panel instead of just the CMU and some of the openings. We've put a strong emphasis on the landscape and tree preservation. Understand that we are taking out a fair amount of foliage in the center of the site, but the huge emphasis on this project is the potential continuation of the walking path around the perimeter of the site, which we're hopeful that we can be a catalyst to connecting to Edgewater with some additional parcels. And then the renderings of the site, the major changes has really mostly been on the townhouse side. The townhouse project wanted to mimic and integrate a little bit more of the apartment building architecture at the corners and at the window configurations, along with adjusting the doors and window frames to be black as well to match the apartment building. It's kind of a quick summary. If it's too short, I'm happy to go into more detail for you.
Okay, thank you. Commission members, any questions? I do think we received a couple of letters about, or a letter or two about this project. Is that true to the director?
Sure, I'd be happy to summarize the letter we received. And this letter is from, let's see, Mr. Michael Armstrong, who is a resident in the neighborhood. And while he is not necessarily opposed to the development project and believes there will be economic benefits to the neighborhood, he did have a few questions/concerns. There was a question about the impact on public health regarding air pollution, noise pollution, and rising temperatures due to the reduction of permeable land surfaces. He also had a question regarding putting a project next to a rail line that is a main route for flammable oil trains. Does the city have fiscal resources and capacity to deal with any potential hazards that may arise as a result of the project's proximity to the rail line? I'll just say that there are many projects adjacent to rail lines, including housing all over the city, and I don't believe that's a concern. And then finally, some neighbors are concerned that their property taxes will go up and they have to move. While that is a discussion that is valid, it's outside the purview of our discussion today. I will share that the administration is working heavily on these types of policies, and that the 10-year housing study, which we'll revisit soon, hopefully at Planning Commission, aims to address rising property values and taxes.
Okay. Thank you very much for that. Commission members, any questions? And if someone's going to make a motion, I'll leave it up for their discussion if you're open to final approval with
Chair
this.
Curry, we do have a hand raised from Adam Davenport, Planning Commission.
Okay, Adam?
Thanks, Madam Chair. Just wanted, Councilmember Spencer couldn't be here today. I just wanted to read a statement by her as well. Summarizing this, she commends the development team for being thoughtful when it comes to their site plan and for the publicly accessible bike path around the perimeter of the project, which was one of our kind of form-based code items that we talked about when we were doing the Detroit pilot study area, and also commends the development team for working out a community benefits agreement with the local CDC as well. And then wanted to share her perspective that she feels that it's important that more of these projects that are coming up in Ward 15 that we'll see in the near future, like Westinghouse and other kind of major developments like that, that she feels like they should include more affordable and middle market units, as well as products that are geared towards aging in place. And then just wanted to echo that most of the design review comments from final review this past Wednesday were towards the landscaping plan, as well as integration of the parking deck, the first 2 stories of this building being the parking deck, integration with the kind of materials on the upper stories of the building, and noting that the development team has kind of agreed to come back to staff and the committee with those changes in the future. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. All right, committee members.
Madam Chair, I'll move final approval incorporating the comments regarding the landscaping from design review and the concerns about the parking deck with staff review.
Sure.
Second, Fluker.
A motion and a second. Let's call the roll.
Downing,
Yes.
Fluker,
Yes.
Curry,
Yes.
McCray Scott,
Yes.
Hall,
Yes.
Blythe.
Yes.
Motion carries. Thank you very much. Next
Okay.
item.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, thanks. All right, the next item is Carver Park Phase 3, seeking final approval. This is on Quincy Avenue, multiple parcels on East 40th Street. I apologize on my computer. Christina or anyone else from RDL that's going to speak, if I can swear you in.
Yes, Christina's here from RDL. We also have Mark Stodds from the Finch Group, the developer, and we have Cynthia Chris from CMHA as well.
Okay. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth as you shall answer to the penalty of perjury?
Yes.
Since this was approved as presented and we saw schematic approval just recently, I really would encourage you to please really just hit the site plan and some of the exterior because we are falling behind. So appreciate that. Thanks.
Actually, if you go to the next slide, I included our 3 comments for schematic design. Next slide, actually. For item number 1, we walked the site with some various parties looking at the trees. We identified some of the existing trees that are tall enough that we can limb up to get out of the way of the camera and the blocking the lighting. There are some other shorter trees with their tree canopy in the view of the camera. They cannot be cleanly limbed up, so we are recommending those trees to be replaced. So it would be a combination of tree preservation and replacement. All the final trimming will be done by a certified arborist, and we have rendered this in our rendering. For item number 2, we have added a accent color to break up the monolithic theme. You can see the accent color in our revised colored elevations. For item number 3, we kind of studied the lighting. We have some photos of the existing lighting from phase 1 and 2. We're trying to match that lighting to make it easy for maintenance on CMHA, having one fixture or a group of fixture types down there. So we looked at the light placement. We changed the placement to make them a little bit more feel intentional. We added some uplighting on the other side of the canopy, and we actually do have a nighttime rendering showing the proposed light fixtures. So if you can scroll down, you should come to a slide with some photos of the existing light fixtures. But keep on scrolling. Okay, this is the slide. This is just showing the existing light fixtures. We're proposing to use these fixtures in our phase as well. If you keep on scrolling down to our exterior renderings. Stop. So you can see the placement or the retention of the taller trees. Then we will supplement the trees that we remove with an appropriate shaped tree. Again, this work will be done in conjunction with our certified arborist. If you want to actually just scroll down to the next slide. This is our nighttime rendering. You can really see, moving some of the building lights down, making their placement a little bit more intentional within the windows. We added the uplighting on the underside of the canopy, and we also have the lighting at the doors as well. And if you want to scroll down to our colored elevations, you can also see the accent color that we're adding to the buildings. Stop. So we're adding an accent color just to break up the colors, but not making it a hodgepodge of all the different colors in the building. So we added this kind of gray color to all of the buildings to break up our accent color. So if you want to scroll down to the next 2 slides. So those are all the changes that were presented to design review based on their comments. Do you have any questions?
Christina. Commission
Madam
members?
Chair, if there are no questions, I would like to move to approve said project with the caveat that they continue to work with staff on tree preservation and lighting.
I second.
We have a motion and a second. We'll call the roll.
Downing,
Yes.
Fluker,
Yes.
Curry,
Yes.
McCray Scott,
Yes.
Paul,
She may no longer be here. Is Stami here?
Right, she did note that she had to leave.
Okay, motion carries. Oh, wait.
I'm sorry, Councilman Slife.
Carlos, yes. Motion carries. Thank you very much. And it's
you.
a very important project, so thank you.
Thank you.
Next item.
Madam Chair, while we are scrolling to the next project, I would like to recommend that we defer the Midtown Park to the next meeting because we have lost quorum for that item. However, we will have quorum for the following items. I would also like to have J-Rock present after West 20th Street, and then we can go into mandatory referrals. For the H5 data center, we will defer you to the end of the agenda.
Okay, thank you. So near West 2022-013, this is the West 20th new construction apartments at 2485 West 20th. Brandon, are you the only one speaking to this again?
Yes, I am.
I don't think I need to swear you in again. You're still sworn in, so go ahead.
Okay. Go to the next slide. So this project is directly, I'll go to the next slide. It's directly behind the Trio project currently under construction at West 25th and Multi-Court, with Multi-Court extending and connecting to West 25th. So it would be a setback right behind it, a 4-story apartment building, 85 units. The right side of the building has covered parking with a full front facade, building facade. So it's sheltered behind, with surface parking behind. The key component of the project is ensuring that we provision to allow for the Multi-Court extension to continue on and provide a widened right-of-way. Currently, the right-of-way is only 16 foot. It's pretty much only like a dirt road because the asphalt's so destroyed. So the project is allowing, and you can see, if you go to the next slide, a dash line site plan showing the extension of that future extension, and hopeful that Multi can continue on with the reaching the heights plan and connecting Multi into the additional street connections. Here's some context photos of what's going on. At this point, Trio is fully topped out, 5-story construction in front of us. Next slide. You can see in the site plan, as I mentioned, the sheltered parking on the right side of the site. You'll pull in off of West 20th. The grade changes significantly and falls down towards the railway. The back of the site has a very nice plateau. It has an amazing view to the skyline, to the skyline view. We've earmarked for a public viewing terrace. We went and had our first block club meeting where we had asked the residents what they'd like to see as a public component. This portion of the site, originally we had suggested a dog park. They suggested they'd rather see a viewing terrace just because of the skyline view is so nice from that area. It's our hope that we can potentially connect that green space to adjacent green spaces that may be required in other developments adjacent. We're working through that with those others to try to see if there's an ability to combine and enlarge that as well. There's walk-up units off of Multi and the lobby and amenity area right off the corner of West 20th. design review comments were a strong emphasis on the facade. We heard them loud and clear, and we'll address them. Really, we were requesting and asking just approvals for site density, massing, and orientation of the site, which we received really good feedback on that. So we'll be working through renditions in the exterior of the building to a very early state. Wanted to obviously show something with it. But masonry and metal panel, we were using a metal panel to complement the trio building. But we'll be making some adjustments based on design review comments. Happy to answer any questions.
So we are asking just for conceptual approval, site plan, etc.
Schematic.
Schematic. Okay. Commission members, any comments or questions? And so this is asking for schematic approval. I would say I like the site plan. I like how it's laid out. I do think the architecture is sort of far behind. It's lagging in terms of, I think, the quality that you might want to sort of really think about that in this next phase between now and final. It's it to me, especially as you're taking cues from across the street, which was an exceptional design that they had for that building. I think it requires you guys to really rethink, let's just say, the materials and the fenestration quite a bit.
Understood and agreed.
Okay. So commission members.
Madam Chair, I would agree with you. I think the detailing could be crisper and look cleaner. So I would, given that, I would like to move to approve the schematic design project with comments made here and further reconciliation of staff comments as they move forward.
Okay. So we have
Chair Curry, we do have a comment from Matt Moss.
let me get a
I'll
second.
second Downing.
Okay, second, Matt.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just briefly, I wanted to mention, in case the applicant hadn't, that they're also working with the CDC here, and since this is a land bank parcel, to provide some fixed income units as part of the project. So we're working through that in terms of making sure the design can be improved as well, but with that consideration as well, that there's an interest here in providing some more affordable housing units into this project. So I just want to make sure you're aware of that.
Okay. Okay. So we have a
Yeah, I
motion.
appreciate that, Matt. I left that off. Thank you.
Okay. We have a motion and a second. Can I have further comments? Or sorry, a vote.
Downing,
Yes.
Fluker,
Yes.
Curry,
Yes.
McCray Scott,
Yes.
Life.
Motion carries. Next item.
If J-Rock team is here for the final approval of Fairfield, I'm sorry, Drew, it's all the way at the very end of the deck. They are returning once again for final approval.
Okay. That's great. After this, Director, will we have covered everybody who's really in for keeping their project moving along for permitting?
That's right. The final outstanding is conceptual only. So.
Okay. And then maybe we should move any legislation or mandatory referrals so they make sure they get going, and then we'll go back to.
Yes, we should go to mandatory referral since we have fairly substantial legislation today. I do want to mention we do have public art following that, which will require votes.
Okay, so we'll go from here to the mandatory and then to the public art.
Yep.
Okay.
That's the one. Thank you, Drew.
Okay. This is Driftwood Apartment, new construction. This is at 11111 Fairfield Avenue. We gave schematic approval. So is this here for final then? Yes. And it was approved as presented. Is Aaron here?
Yeah, good morning, Aaron here and Bill Naburka with Evident Architecture Office.
Okay, do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth as you shall answer to the penalty of perjury?
I do.
Okay. If you don't mind, move pretty quickly since we've seen this.
Yeah, great. Well, thanks again for your time this morning and for just facilitating this. So we received, final approval from Near West, and we're looking for that from the Planning Commission today. The only variance we're seeking is a retail and a residential district. We have no other variances. So we went ahead, and the only real comment was from a design aspect was something that we were looking at as well, and that was with regards to the first floor, especially including the corner retail, the visibility of it. We were showing some slats, and we were playing with that, and it admittedly did block some of the transparency we all were hoping. So we made those adjustments. Those are going to organically happen, but that feedback was excellent and well received. And so we are here today to kind of update you on that. We also helped show the slides in a more Cleveland-esque weather, which was a comment from the Near West group. So we wanted to make it, I guess, more realistic. And then I think that covers most of it. So if we could just start jumping forward to the renderings, which are on page 8. Perfect. So I'll have Bill lead most of this conversation. I'm here to jump in as needed, but go ahead, Bill.
I think we can move through this pretty quickly. We added some imagery that speaks to the ground floor. If we just want to sort of slowly walk forward, I think that begins to demonstrate. Again, we tried to create a lot of porosity at that corner, the retail space, so that could intermingle with the internal community of the building. We can just kind of keep going. We can advance. Some images of that ground floor, the residential entry around to the side, and the type of glazing. We're definitely working between the transparency of those spaces and as keeping consistency as it moves around on Fairfield to keep some level of also privacy to the porches that front along Fairfield. We can keep scrolling through. So you can see that this treatment kind of continues along the Fairfield frontage where it becomes porches for those units along that. Next slide. We did have some comments about the level of transparency of those private spaces. So we did look at some images which I think are farther down in the presentation, just kind of looking from inside and outside. We feel like we're getting a lot closer to that balance of privacy, but also communication with that pedestrian space. Next slide. We can just keep kind of scrolling. So these are just images where we looked at studying those spaces a little bit further. I think one comment that we should address that did come up from the design approval, the only sort of condition was to look at in the slide we saw previously there's the south wall of the garage to get a little more articulation in that, which we're going to look at as we develop that facade. And AT, unless I'm forgetting something, the garage space, kind of looking at that entry and the residential entry just to the right there. And then the next slide is just, again, our major materials. We're looking at a stained wood siding, stained wood slats, a painted panel that mostly sits amongst the windows, an aluminum window system, and where concrete is exposed, looking at a board form concrete that would emulate the wood. I think that's the high points.
Thank you.
Yeah, just the next slide is the tree preservation plan, which was approved by Jennifer Kipp. We'll be doing new plantings on West 11th and Fairfield. The current plantings, the tree species, not ideal for that that area. And there's a lot of overhead lines that have led to them getting chopped in pieces, essentially. So we're going to put some appropriately sized and appropriate species in there per Jennifer Kipp, the city forester.
Okay, thank you. Can you go back to the new facade, the new front rendering, and then commission members, any questions?
Yeah, Madam Chair, I asked that the applicant pay special attention to how far they take the low E coating for glazing, because if you take it or film, you take it too far, it starts to look reflective. And I know there's a project that I won't mention that I'm not too happy with, that's on the corner of West 25th and Lorraine, that took that too far. And I just, and it's troubling because it makes it feel like very 80s and 90s. Thank you.
Okay, I do have a question though, and maybe I missed it. For this retail or this kind of commercial, show me the signage for it.
We haven't indicated signage for it right now. I think what we typically look for is simple blade signs, but we haven't shown signage in this imagery.
Okay, I mean, I'm happy with this. I don't want to hold this up, but I do think for me that the success of whatever this is, it's still, it doesn't look like retail, which is okay. It's just going to need some help for people to know that it's retail, So anyway.
Right. Yeah, no, that's good feedback. And for us as the developer owner, we want that to be very successful for not just us, but for the neighborhood and the building. So we're aligned, Lillian, and we'll get that resolved.
Okay, and in that regard, I think just know that it's okay to have that expression, even though this is such a clean and contemporary piece of architecture. I think signage is okay and is actually could be quite cool. So I ask because it doesn't seem to be incorporated in terms of this, but up to you guys. I'm just raising it.
Good point.
Yeah,
all right.
No, appreciate that feedback.
Commission members?
I move approval, Downing.
Second, McCray Scott.
Motion and a second. I also want to thank you guys for really, taking the comments and doing the work between, which is really, really nice project. So,
thank you. Yeah, we appreciate you.
So let's take a vote, Michael.
Downing,
Yes.
Fluker,
Yes.
Curry,
Yes.
McCray Scott,
Yes.
Blythe.
Yes.
I think also if the commission members are okay, I think they can come back to staff with signage. Don't need to come back here. So, okay. Next, so I think we're going to jump to mandatory referrals to make sure we get all this legislation moving. So if you can move the agenda back there.
Thanks, Dro. And Chair Curry, if I could just give a roadmap of where we're going with all four of these. First up is Complete and Green Streets Ordinance, which we are really excited, jointly introduced by Councilman McCormack and Mayor Bibb as one of his 100-day goals. The second one is the Tree Commission legislation, which will be known as the Urban Forestry Commission. And then we'll have two more approval or votes on the upcoming parks. So the theme of the legislation is green, complete and green. And we're really excited. We have lots of folks who have been collaboratively working on this. So we have all shown up in full force to show support for these various projects. Without further ado, I want to turn it over to, go ahead.
Quick question. So we have about 40 minutes.
Yep.
So I'm going to look to you to keep these all moving since they're really
Yes.
coming to the administration in
Yes.
how quickly we can get through them. They're very important. So,
Yes.
okay.
Callie and Annie, if you could work through your presentation in 8 to 10 minutes, followed by very brief comments, that would be great. Thank you.
Sure. Thank you, Director. Thank you, Madam Chair. Callie and I are going to jointly discuss the new Complete and Green Streets Ordinance introduced at Council on April 18th. Next slide, please. What we're going to focus on in our presentation today is really the contents of the ordinance itself. And as a brief primer for the group, I want to start by mentioning that Complete and Green Streets is really a framework to ensure that streets are safe for people of all ages and abilities, and to balance different modes using our streets. What our new 2022 ordinance will do is update the current 2011 Complete and Green Streets Ordinance It will allow us to incorporate additional green and multimodal elements in roadway projects. It will increase opportunities for stakeholder input into our roadway projects, and it will help expand broader community and stakeholder understanding of roadway project development. Next slide, please. I'm going to talk a little bit about a major piece of the legislation, which is how community interacts with the city on the development of our roadway projects. And then I'll turn it over to Callie Mersman, who will talk through more details of some of the steps that I'll mention here. So our current process is depicted in a flowchart on this screen. Roadway projects originate in different spaces, as this commission is well aware. But generally, roadway projects that require additional funding outside of what the city can provide themselves, we go to different sources to fund roadway projects, NOACA, ODOT, alternative sources. And on the city's end, these are the steps that we follow to make sure our match funding that the city provides for these projects goes through. So initially, projects are scoped. We have an idea of how much they would cost. We create a list of bond requests. Those bond requests go to council. When the way that we can fund these roadway projects is that banks sell the bonds, and if the bonds go forward, we can proceed with designing the project and implementing it. And so this is kind of a really reduced but a straightforward way to explain how our current process works. Next slide, please. With the introduction of complete and green streets, what the ordinance explains is that we'll have additional opportunities for input on the roadway project development process. So from the very beginning, we would have an enhanced interdepartmental project review where staff from multiple departments would discuss upcoming roadway projects and identify early on where we have overlapping initiatives between sustainability, urban forestry, planning, safety initiatives, and identify those early on. We would then present to a newly formed Transportation Infrastructure Advisory Committee a short list of projects for external review of various scoping elements. The short name for this committee is, we're referring to it as the TAC through the ordinance. The TAC would provide feedback on scoping elements back to the city. The city would incorporate look at that list and early on have the opportunity to incorporate those recommendations into our roadway projects. Any recommendations from the TAC that couldn't be incorporated into the project would be posted publicly as exceptions. The project would then move through the rest of the administrative review up to construction. And another important part of the ordinance is that there would be an annual report and an evaluation for the roadway projects that go through this process. Next slide, please. The pictures that you see on this slide explain some of the current complete and green streets parameters that we look at with different roadway projects. There are different roadway typologies, and an important consideration of our new ordinance would be to be very context sensitive and be considering different type of typologies early on as roadway projects are discussed. And this type of guidance would help our internal procedure and our discussions with the TAC on prioritizing different types of elements depending on the neighborhood context, depending on the roadway. So not every project would look the same, or every project would consider the same elements. The context sensitivity will be extremely important. Next slide, please. And I'll turn it over to Callie Mersman here.
Hi, everyone. For those who don't know me, I'm Callie. I am the Bicycle and Pedestrian Coordinator in the City Planning Commission. So quickly underlining how these process steps address the 4 objectives that Annie laid out at the beginning. This ordinance updates and replaces our 2011 Complete and Green Streets Ordinance and instructs the Director of Capital Projects and Planning to develop an administrative policy to flesh out the process and how to operationalize the general approach that Annie just laid out. So as a follow-up step to this ordinance passing, we will be developing a very comprehensive administrative policy document that lays out how the internal staff review happens, how we consult with the Transportation Infrastructure Advisory Committee, and how that flows into project development. We plan to come back to Planning Commission if you'll have us for an informational presentation of the nuances and details of that policy. Next slide, please. As Annie stated, the overall goal is to incorporate additional green and multimodal elements into the roadway project. So the ordinance outlines some acceptable design standards, both for roadway elements and green elements. It also states that the city should post these publicly and they'll be incorporated into the administrative policy. The ordinance also directs the Director of City Planning to create a regularly updated active transportation plan, which will outline updated bicycle and pedestrian safety and connectivity needs. As Annie mentioned, the context sensitivity of each street is very important in how we implement this. So knowing where we have bicycle and pedestrian needs and priorities is an important input into the design elements of any individual roadway project. This ordinance directs the Director of City Planning to create an updated active transportation plan at a minimum every 5 years so that we have a recurring check-in on that vision and guidance for the city. And building on the staff review that goes on now for scoping roadway projects, we'll be creating an enhanced interdisciplinary staff team with representation from the departments listed on the right side of the screen here to have a holistic understanding of multimodal elements, green elements, safety needs, and engineering needs as projects are born in that very beginning stage of the process that Annie showed on her process chart. Next slide, please. This ordinance also increases opportunities for stakeholder input through the Transportation Infrastructure Advisory Committee. There are 10 members that are outlined in the ordinance, representing both agency partners as well as advocacy groups and resident representatives. This committee will be convened on a quarterly basis. Roadway projects that are highlighted as needing some additional review and complete streets elements through the review of active transportation planning, tree canopy planning, safety review, etc., will be presented to this advisory committee with staff recommendations for their review, thought, and feedback, which then go into the scoping process that Capital Projects leads. Next slide, please. An important part of this is stakeholder understanding of roadway project development and what is ultimately included into project design. So any Transportation Infrastructure Advisory Committee input that cannot be incorporated into a project for any reason will be documented and posted as an exception on the city's website. There will also be an enhanced annual report about performance measures that are outlined in the ordinance for to indicate progress on implementation of complete and green streets. Next slide. So where we're going from here, we're in the administrative review process. The ordinance, after being signed off on, goes back to City Council for committee hearings. We have filed a grant with ODOT for active transportation plan funding that was submitted earlier this month. Well, last month now. We expect a decision on that this summer. We also held just this week a complete streets training for city staff in partnership with the ODOT Active Transportation Academy and have been having several internal coordination meetings to create and outline that administrative policy that the ordinance directs us to adopt. The ordinance also lays out some timelines in terms of implementation. So we need to have that administrative policy drafted within 60 days of ordinance passage. The mayor and council are directed to appoint members to the advisory committee within 90 days of passage, and that group shall be convened for the first of its quarterly meetings within 6 months. That is the final slide of our informational presentation. We have some time for questions from the commission, but also have a couple of public commenters lined up. So, Madam Chair, I'll hand it back over to you to perhaps open it up to the public comment.
Okay. If you could let me know how many people there are to speak, because I do want to have enough time for commission members as well. How many people do you know are speaking?
We have a total of 4 people. 2 of them are residents that would like to speak for 2 minutes or less, and then 2 our agency by Cleveland and American Heart Association submitted written comments, and so need only a few seconds to reiterate and introduce themselves.
Then I would love to hear from the residents first. So thank you for coming and taking the time. So I will look for Michael or someone to identify them to go ahead and speak for a couple of minutes.
I think we have Becky Trout from Refugee Response.
Yes.
Becky.
Hi, my name is Becky Trout. I'm the Corner 65 director at Refugee Response. We have over 100 students that we're actively involved with. We've served this population for the last 10 years. While discussing safety concerns on West 50th between Clark and Store, where many of our students live or pass through, we've learned that many of our Corner 65 youth feel scared to walk or bike to almost anywhere from their homes. Angel, one of our Corner 65 youth, told us that cars go very fast and are often so close to parked cars that they have to be very careful when getting out of their cars before they're being dropped off. Alpha, another one of our Corner 65 youth, told us that sometimes he just wants to go outside and play with his ball because there's not many places he can play around his house. And when the weather gets nice, cars go very fast and they race down his street. We've done countless road safety courses with our students because we've had 3 students struck by cars on hit and runs while on bicycles in the last 2 years. Unfortunately, there was nothing our students could have done at the time of being hit by a bicycle while the vehicle was traveling at fast speeds. This presents a huge issue considering that CMSD schools do not bus all of their students into school after 7th grade, and many of our students rely on bicycles or walking to get to and from school, as well as to and from programming at rec centers or our Corner 65 activities. Upon dropping off many of our students, our leadership has noticed that there's a limited visibility for the amount of youth that are living on the streets due to parked cars preventing visibility. Crosswalks are far and spread out without much lighting or signage. Leadership often has to dodge cars to transport youth to safe places to play. I personally have been hit by a vehicle twice while picking up students. I was parked in a designated spot in the Clark-Fulton neighborhoods. In addition to the visibility, there's not many good pull-off spots to allow kids off of our bus, and this presents the need for this ordinance and forthcoming complete streets guidelines to include programs and elements designed for traffic calming. This is imperative for us not to lose lives to threatening scenarios with any children or anyone. There is no reason that we as pedestrians need to dodge reckless vehicles in our city going from point A to point B. So on behalf of Corner 65, we beg you to look at our futures for consideration, and thanks for this time.
Thank you, Becky. Is there another resident? You want to identify them?
Mr. Nyemba is here.
Yes. Mael Ngemba, president of the Congolese community of Greater Cleveland. I lead the Congolese community, which is one of the largest refugee group in the area. And most of our residents live in the Clark-Fulton area, where I also live. I live in the Brooklyn Center. So we're kindly asking you to support this ordinance because I think it's very important. Just a few weeks ago, I believe this was last week, last Saturday, we buried a 5-year-old little girl, Pauline Masumani, who was killed on West 50th by a speeding car. This is just one of the, the individuals who identified, but there were many of them that have been struck into those areas. As a resident of the area, I have seen this as a problem, and the member of my community, they live there. They see this as a problem. It's tough. It's very tough out there. You know, we see people riding on the sidewalks, see people flying in these residential streets. So, you know, we ask ourselves these questions: are these really residential streets or they are freeways? And is there anything we can do? Yes, there's something we can do. Maybe we can create some safety tools that we can put on there, such as speed bumps. And I am so glad that one of somebody anonymously installed one last night. We don't know who it was, but it's kind of slowing down traffic where little Apollina was killed. Yeah. Only we can ask the planning committees to look into this, and as you also look deciding the way forward, think about our refugee kids, not just refugee, but also beyond the whole community. It's almost that time of the year when kids are going to be outside playing, and many of our kids do not have the privilege of having a big backyard where they can play in their backyard. No, they have to play maybe across the street from an empty lot. That's what they have. So they have to cross there, and they shouldn't lose their life because they're crossing the street to go play. There are so many ways we can prevent these reckless driving, and yeah, I hope you support it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Director Wong, if you want to just read the other two comments very quickly.
Sure. And Mr. Nyemba, we share your pain and your community's pain, and we're going to be doggedly pursuing all that we can to create safer and more complete and green streets. I would
Thank
like to
you.
call in Jacob Van Sickle from By Cleveland just to introduce himself and share his comment in a few seconds.
Thanks, Director Wong and Madam Chair and all members of the Planning Commission for the opportunity to speak about By Cleveland support for the Complete Green Streets Ordinance. This is a piece of legislation we've been working with Councilman McCormick to advance for over 3 years, and we're pleased to have Mayor Bibb's support. Due to time, I'll defer to my submitted comments that I sent to Callie Mersman outlining our organization's support of the ordinance. But I'd also like to thank Mayal and Becky for speaking today in support of the ordinance, and I'd like to express my and our organization's thoughts and prayers are with the Asamani family, neighbors, and the Congolese community. So, thanks.
Thank you. Joyce, Director Wong, is there one more?
Yes, and I believe Callie, you may need to help me. Is it
Sure.
Michael Arms?
James
Okay.
Meerdink from the American Heart Association.
Thanks a lot, Director and Commission members. So we at the Heart Association support the improvements in transparency and community engagement in the bill, but we do think more can be done to address historic inequities and disinvestment regarding transportation options and safe biking and walking facilities. So we put forward some edits, modest edits, we think, that prioritize underserved communities in the planning process. We also think these better align the bill with national standards, with our Vision Zero work in Cleveland, and also with the Bibb administration's directives to use policy and programming to address inequities. So we urge the Planning Commission to endorse these changes that prioritize safe, equitable transportation options. And I appreciate your time. And yeah, please refer to the comments we provided if you can.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. Commission members, any discussion or comment? I have one, but I'll defer. I'll wait till the members have gone.
Well, yeah, I'm not aware of the comments that the gentleman just spoke of, so I did defer that to staff and director. I just like to say it's about time we figure out how to work together under one roof. This should be a model that's translatable to all facets of City Hall. And I only have one word to say 3 times: Hercules, Hercules, Hercules. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments from commission members before we take a vote?
Madam Chair, I don't believe Councilman McCormick is on, but obviously he's spent many years getting up to this point. And we're excited to push this through council. Speaking, this is my personal reaction to the comment from Mr. Meerdink. I do think that there are many ways, community development, economic development, that we intentionally focus on areas of disinvestment, and we should do that. That's important. But also, we pick up garbage the same in every neighborhood of the city of Cleveland and provide city services equally across the board. And similarly, I think that it's important that all citizens of the city of Cleveland deserve safe streets. They deserve traffic calming, and it's representing a middle neighborhood that's in direct competition with inner ring suburbs where these improvements are being made. I guess I push back against any idea that there are parts of the city that aren't deserving of a focus of complete and green streets. So thank you.
Thank you. I agree. I have one comment, and it's maybe a question, if it might be possible to think about adding to this ordinance first of all, I want to commend you guys and for moving this so quickly and, pushing it forward. It is so exciting and I'm very excited about it. And it leads me to think that especially this team that is so committed to this might also be the right place to think about all roadway paving and striping coming to this group. And I'll say why. I think Annie's going to know what I'm about to say. But the holy grail of changing this city is actually the day-to-day churn of paving and striping, both crosswalks and lanes. And that happens and turns over this city. Since I've been on the commission, we've probably restriped the city twice, entire city. So what's missing for me is the sense that just crosswalks, paving, and striping could transform the city in addition to large capital or roadway repavements. So I would like to see, and I would recommend council, so this is to Councilman Slythe, to add in here that paving and restriping come to this group in addition along the path, because the combination of both could transform the city really quickly. So I guess that's a question to Councilman Slythe. Is that too far to
I don't want to speak. I'll definitely take that to Councilman McCormick. It's as he's the lead sponsor, and I also, if I don't know if the administration is comfortable speaking to that on Mayor Bitt, but I think it's a valid point. And, I think even, painting crosswalks near schools has been more of an uphill battle than one would anticipate. So it's okay. Councilman McCormick, I see, has just jumped on, so I'll let him speak. But it's a valid point, Madam Chair.
I don't know if you heard my comment, but if you did, I'd love for him to add it in.
Striping.
Can you add it in?
Can you hear me?
We can.
I'm sorry. I am actually leaving a meeting. What was the comment, Madam Chair?
Well, I don't know if I want to repeat it, but I wanted to add to this because I think it's so wonderful and amazing. The idea that could roadway striping, paving, crosswalks, just the regular churn of that in this city be added to come to this committee, so that the combination of large capital projects and just the basic restriping and paving the combination would really transform the city more quickly. And the idea that this group is the right group to also see those projects earlier. To me, there's a lot of money in just striping and repaving that won't be seen in this light. So that was my ad, if it's not too late.
No, first and foremost, thank you for allowing me to jump on here. The short answer, it's not too late. The piece of legislation has not gone to committee yet. And also, really, it's designed to allow the administration, the TIAC, to have kind of purview over a lot of that, quite frankly, if they wanted to take that on. I think my question would be whether that needs to be in good to make like 3 seconds of remark on this. My apologies. I was in a meeting with the medical director and Chief Epstein.
Councilman, you broke up just a little bit. Were you saying that you were thinking that it may not need to be in the ordinance, but in the policy development?
I think that we should take a. Sorry.
Okay. Well, I think
I would echo that, Madam Chair, that in the next 60 days, as we work internally to operationalize this, that would be a part of the policy discussion.
Okay.
And we would report back to the Planning Commission with the policy.
That would be great. That would be fabulous, especially then it's really a process thing. So when those they come here to this committee in a process way, this paving, that would be amazing. I think it would be radically transformative.
Madam Chair, my seconds of remarks on this. Again, my apologies. I was just leaving a meeting with the mayor's administration.
Sure. Go ahead. You're breaking up a little bit though, so we hear.
Can you let me see? I'm sorry. I'm walking through the middle of the rain. Let me see if I can get. Can you hear me now?
Here we can.
Okay, my apologies. So, Madam Chair, again, thank you for hearing this piece of legislation. This piece of legislation has been a long time coming. We've been working with partners and advocates for years, with several iterations of this throughout the years. Let me be very clear. I cannot thank Mayor Bibb, our City Council, Director Wong, and others for their support, because quite frankly, we didn't have it before. And that was extremely frustrating. And this new administration has stepped up, understanding that this is not just a around the edges issue. Madam Chair, last night I was in a block club in Tremont, as recently as last night, where I was hearing from residents about their concerns about speeding cars and road safety. So I hear it every single block club I go to, community meeting I go to. I hear these concerns. And so I think it's really important for the city to develop a policy that designs safer roads for all users. Again, we've been trying to do this for years. I've had a couple pieces introduced actually, but we worked collaboratively with the mayor's administration this year to develop a piece that really reflected the values that we're looking to achieve. And really quickly, Bike Cleveland, American Heart Association, Clevelanders for Public Transit, and others have been really important partners in this work. But again, our residents are clear and loud that they want to see safer roads for our families, our children, our seniors, cyclists, folks of all abilities. And quite frankly, we've fallen short, Madam Chair, of achieving that. But we really have an opportunity with this policy, with the new council, the new mayor, to achieve those goals. And then, Madam Chair, the last thing I will say is, unfortunately, there are many folks that land in the horrible category. But I attended a funeral vigil. They sat with a girl. Her and killed, unfortunately, in Ward 3 just a few weeks ago. Just a precious young child was hit by a speeding driver, killed. And I use that and just look in the eyes of a mother who just went through it is something that no other parent should have to experience because of out of control drivers and road safety. It's the kind of when you look into a mother's eyes after this happens, it will rock your soul. And, this is exactly who we need to pass this ordinance for Apollina and her family, for families like hers and others that have experienced the negative side of car violence and not having our roads being as safe as possible. This 5-year-old baby lost her life, and there's a devastated family now. So, Madam Chair, again, I think it is incumbent upon the city government to do better, to do much better in designing our roads so they're safe for everyone. And I'm confident in this ordinance to really shape the way we do that. So thank you to the commission and everyone involved who's touched this piece of legislation. I think it's going to tangibly make our city a better place and raise the quality of life for Clevelanders. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Thank you very much. All right, I think we're going to need to take a vote because we still have a couple more items. Commission members would like to see if we can.
Yes, Madam Chair, I would like to make a motion to approve the advancement of legislation with consideration to comments that were made for recommended amendments.
Okay. And those were, just to specify before you second, you meant the amendment that I said to potentially include paving and striping in the process?
There are some other comments made by others.
Okay.
I believe for the Heart Association, all that be taken into consideration before final legislation is drafted. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Madam Chair, just a point of information. These are mandatory referrals. We're going to do them individually this week.
The mandatory, we always do individual. It's the administrative.
Oh,
we
okay.
do.
Thank you. I will second then. Thank you.
Motion and a second. Let's call the roll.
Downing,
Yes.
Fluker,
Yes.
Curry,
Yes.
McCray Scott,
Yes.
Slife.
Yes.
Motion carries. Thank you all. Amazing work and super exciting. So thank you. Next item. It's an additional mandatory referral. This is being introduced by council members Casey and McCormick to repeal Chapter 163 Tree Commission and to supplement it by enacting a new Chapter 163.01.04 to reestablish the Tree Commission. And who's going to present this from staff?
Fran DiDonato, are you here? I see her on. Are you unmuted?
You want to go to the next one and come back? Since we have 4.
Let me hang.
I can hear you now, Fran.
Okay. With my audio and my computer. But am I echoing?
No, you're good.
Okay. Madam Chair, Director Huang, I'm echoing on myself. I'm sorry.
Fran, if that's okay with you, I'm going to have us move on to the next legislation, and then as you figure out your audio.
I'm not sure. Can you hear me now?
You know.
Okay. Do you want me to go ahead or do you want to move forward?
Go ahead, Fran.
Okay, sorry for the audio issues. Thank you all for letting me present to you today. My name is Fran DiDonato. I'm a senior strategist for sustainability for Mayor Bibb. And I participated with this group. I'd just like to acknowledge the folks who are also online with me today, who helped kind of go through this process. We had a working group to look at this legislation, look at best practices, and amend it to how it was presented in 2020. So online with me today is Jennifer Kipp. She's the city's urban forester and has already opined on some of the tree issues that have come up with this meeting today. Elizabeth Grace from Western Reserve Land Conservancy, Samira Malone, who's previously with Midtown Cleveland and has just been named the new executive director for the Cleveland Tree Coalition. It's very exciting. This is the first executive director for this group. Divya Sridhar from Cleveland Neighborhood Progress, and Shirley Vaughn with the Davie Resource Group is representing Sandra Albro, and she participated while she was still with the Holden Forest and Gardens. Lizzie Swords is also with us from Western Reserve Land Conservancy, and Councilman McCormick was also involved with this group. And so if there's other questions that you have, they are also available for any of the questions that the folks might have. If we could go into the presentation. Slide, yep. So we're here to talk about revitalizing, now we're calling it the Urban Forestry Commission. It was previously called the Tree Commission. And trees play an important role in the urban landscape. They provide vibrancy, texture to neighborhoods and homes, but we also know that they reduce ozone from air, reduce carbon emissions, they lower energy costs by providing shade, and they provide stormwater mitigation and improve water quality. All of these together increase property values and make neighborhoods more vital. Next slide, please. So the Cleveland Tree Coalition, through their Tree Canopy Progress Report in 2020, has quantified the collective benefits of trees, and that is in excess of $11.4 million. We know that our tree canopy produces a lifetime carbon storage benefit of over 26 million. And also our canopy contributes to nearly 3.7 million of avoided negative health impacts. And this is annually. So this is just for the trees that we have and not those that we will plant in the future. Next slide. But we are having severe challenges to our urban tree canopy here in Cleveland. We know this because trees are being thinned by development, disease, and climate change. Our tree canopy is at as low as 18% right now, and it's continuing to go down. Each year, it's estimated that 97 acres of tree canopy is lost. And at this rate, the canopy will drop to 14% by 2040 unless we act now. And just to compare, Cincinnati is at about 40% coverage. So Cleveland is very far behind. And the trees that we're planting right now aren't mature enough to add to the canopy benefits. So we're not planting fast enough, and we're not getting there fast enough. Just the loss of collective benefits from 2011 to 2017, it went down 5%. And this equates to 3.1 million in services that trees provide each year. We also know the canopy is inequitable, and our most vulnerable residents are getting fewer health benefits than the wealthier, more stable neighborhoods. So it's imperative that we stem the tide of loss and look towards reversing this trend. Next slide. So as this slide shows, the existing tree canopy on the left, some parts of town are showing as little as 4% coverage. This is areas like downtown. And we have a few parts that have over 25% coverage, like West Park and Euclid Green, west side, east side. The slide in the middle shows where we can have possible tree canopy. So these are the areas where we have the most room to grow the canopy. And when we overlay these maps on top of the utility burden map, which is shown as in the bottom right-hand corner, we can see how trees can play a vital role in reversing inequity and the legacy of neighborhood disinvestment. So moving forward, we can see how an equitable planting strategy could really make a difference to our residents. We know that trees can reduce a household's energy consumption for heating and cooling by up to 25%. Shading of an air conditioner can increase its efficiency by as much as 10%. So putting money towards tree cover is an easy way to invest in economic development, health, safety, curb appeal, and at the same time, it's putting money right back into our residents' pockets. Next slide, please. So this brings us to the work of the Urban Forestry Commission. The initial commission was established in the early 90s and went dormant in the early 2000s. In 2020, legislation to amend and restart the Cleveland Tree Commission was introduced by council members Casey and McCormick. Pressure from the community in conjunction with work being done by the Cleveland Tree Coalition compelled council to act. And from what I understand, it was held at Planning Commission and didn't move forward with administrative review. But when the new administration came into office, we had several different departments kind of bring it to the mayor's office, and we began to review the legislation anew. At the same time, there were external conversations happening with many of the members who are involved today about how we could move forward with best practices. So we pulled together a working group of folks who had worked on it in 2020, people from the Tree Coalition, members of council and administration, to review the legislation and make recommendations. We understood that the previous administration had held this piece because the duties in the ordinance as it was drafted in 2020 were already being performed, mainly the education and outreach and the fundraising components. And there was a thought that there were too many voices and organizations at the table and that this commission would be redundant. Next slide. I just want to give some importance to the work that the Cleveland Tree Coalition has done. You can see the members on the right-hand side. Now that list has grown to over 40 member organizations, and the logos on the left represent those organizations that are part of the executive committee who do a lot of the heavy lifting. So a tree plan was developed in 2015 by this group, updated again in 2020. Member organizations do plantings, tree giveaways, public education and outreach, and fundraising. But one area that the coalition has trouble filling, and this is where we believe that the commission really fills a role, is providing advice and strategy on how the city can implement best practices to maintain and grow the tree canopy. As we've witnessed today, just with this hearing, the trees are being cut down, moved, planted, but not in the right place. And all of these small decisions really go to affecting the overall tree canopy. Jennifer Kipp, who is on the line today, she was instrumental in working on this. And what I said to her was, if this commission doesn't foster the work that you do with the urban forestry section, then we really don't need this commission. And so we really put a lot of emphasis on the work that Jennifer does, the needs that she has, because she is a one woman show and cannot be doing all of this work. And so really the commission is needed to help her move forward and make sure that we continue to maintain the tree canopy and grow it. So the next slide, please. So this slide, I'm just going to go over some of the places where we tweaked the legislation, but happy to answer questions later about the entire piece. One of the areas that we wanted to change, and it might seem minor, but instead of the tree commission, we wanted to change it to the Urban Forestry Commission. 2 points on this, the Cleveland Tree Coalition and the Tree Commission, it sounded too similar. So we wanted to distinguish that. We also wanted to point out that this is all about urban forestry. So about how do trees and vegetation, how do they work in the city of Cleveland? You can't just plant any type of tree in any location. We really have to be detailed at looking at what goes where. We also wanted to revise the authority. In the 2020 piece of legislation, council had 8 appointments and the mayor had 7. We reversed that, gave the mayor 8 appointments and council 7, because this is an administrative body with a lot of different departments participating. We wanted to follow what is considered a best practice. We revised the member list. Current members right now, as the ordinance stands, is we have member from our urban forestry, from city planning, from sustainability, from MOCAPS, Division of Engineering and Construction, public utilities, a member from council, a certified arborist, an electric company, 3 resident representatives, and then we had some others. This is where we tweaked it. In the 2020 legislation, we had community development and air quality represented. We removed those 2 members and instead put a member from the development community who has worked in the city of Cleveland on the list, and also an environmental justice representative. We also took, of the 3 residents, we asked that one of those residents be a youth of between, I think it's 11 and 17, with parents' permission to participate. We also tweaked the structure, and this was in the ordinance. It was to meet, the commission was to meet monthly. We thought that that was a little exhaustive, and we moved it to quarterly, but allowed the commission to develop committees and subcommittees that can work on specific tasks as they move forward. And finally, the biggest change that we made, and like I mentioned previously, was the hole that we saw was that the commission was needed to advise the mayor and city council on policy and regulations. So this was really the missing link. And by allowing the commission to advise and then assist with the implementation and monitoring, this ensures that best practices can be developed and spread throughout how the city conducts its business. So we actually have quite a few good laws on the books. They're just not being followed through in terms of implementation and being utilized in the proper way. Next slide. So just finally, and it's at the bottom of the last slide, but it's not needed to be seen here. This is not in the legislation, but it's highly recommended that the commission and the Cleveland Tree Coalition develop an MOU between the 2 groups to determine who's going to do what work. There is overlap between what can be done, but we have a great working relationship. The Tree Coalition has done so much heavy lifting, but we want to take it further inside the city with policy and with regulations to make sure that the work and the planning that they're doing on the outside can be carried forward and through on the inside. So together, we want to work together to achieve that goal. And at this point, I'll just take any questions that you might have. And like I said, we have others on the line as well who are willing to weigh in.
Commission members, I think we're going to keep moving. So I'm going to ask if there are any questions from anyone on the commission. I think maybe Councilman, this is important for you. Anything you want to add? Anyone else?
I would, this is great. Again, we're communicating, we're collaborating. This is awesome. My biggest concern is how do you prevent armchair quarterbacks? And what I mean by that is there's a capacity issue in the city side with regard to urban forestry. One person can't possibly manage and review every effort that comes through that requires attention. And I think we need to figure out how to shore that up, in my personal opinion. Otherwise, we're not going to improve what we're doing. Thank you.
That's a good point.
To that point, we do have a tree fund that has not been utilized. And so there's been a lot of thinking with this working group, how do we get funds in that tree fund? And the first thing that we would want to do is help to augment and support the work of urban forestry inside the city. That's our #1 priority. So we are thinking about that and looking at, this is not sustainable with one person in the role, and we need to make sure that that gets changed.
Madam Chair, I move approval.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Any other comment? Okay, let's call the roll.
Downing,
Yes.
Fluker,
Yes.
Curry,
Yes.
McCray Scott,
Yes.
Slife.
Yes.
Motion carries. Thank you, Fran, and thank you all for your team for such hard work. Really,
Thank you so
it's
much.
nice to move things forward. All right. Next item.
Madam Chair, we have Suzanne DeGennaro from the Office of Capital Projects. And Suzanne, if you could do this in 3 minutes, that would be great.
Yep, sure thing.
Okay.
Good morning. Good
go ahead.
afternoon. My name is Suzanne DeGennaro. I'm the Acting Commissioner of Real Estate in the Office of Capital Projects. Just to give you a little background on this piece, the city applied to the National Park Service for funding. Funding is intended for the development of outdoor recreation facilities in underserved areas. The city was awarded funding for the development of a new park in the Clark Fulton neighborhood. And if you could advance or go back a slide, I can actually forward maybe. Oops, we're missing. Sorry, we're missing the map. This is an area that's bounded. There it is, bounded on the north by Train Avenue, the south to the south it's Clark Avenue, and to the east it's West 56th Street. The city needs to acquire property within this block near the recreation center for the development of the park. And this ordinance would authorize Director of Public Works to do so and also to expend the grant funds. I just want to also mention that Clark Recreation Center is undergoing a complete renovation starting this year. And once that's complete, the park will be constructed. This is in Ward 15. Council member Jenny Spencer is supportive as well. And that's all I have. Thank you.
I move approval.
A motion. Do we have a second? Motion and a second. Can we call the roll?
Downing,
Yes.
Fluker,
Yes.
Curry,
Yes.
McCray Scott,
Yes.
Slife.
Yes.
Motion carries. I think there's one more. Next slide. And this is authorizing the Director of Public Works to apply for a grant from the state of Ohio on Department of Natural Resources, also for a park, Sawinski Park, within Rockefeller Park. Jay, are you here?
Yes, hi, I'm here.
You want to describe this a little bit?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. So this is a Ohio Department of Natural Resources grant for recreational trails. The grant is funded by the Federal Highway Administration. You can advance one slide. So we're applying for a $150,000 grant to construct the first phase of the Dwinski Doneside Trail. It's approximately 1,400 feet. You can see it on the map there. This will build off a current Dome Brook stream restoration project going on by the Dome Brook Watershed Partnership. So we're just going to build off of that and build the first phase to have some natural resource interpretation and some outdoor recreational opportunities for the local residents. It's going to set the stage for some additional improvements from future funding. So it's really just kind of the first phase to build off the stream restoration project that's ongoing right now.
Okay, thank you very much. Commission members?
I move approval. Downing.
Second, Fluker.
Motion and a second. Michael, call the roll.
Downing,
Yes.
Fluker,
Yes.
Curry,
Yes.
McCray Scott, Denise, are you there?
We may have
Yes.
lost.
Yes.
Oh, there we go.
Yes.
Okay. Councilman Slife.
Yes.
Motion carries. Okay, Director, what do we have left that requires a vote? Public art?
We have 2 public art proposals, and we have this H5 data center in downtown.
Okay.
And the
The data,
administrative approvals bundled.
the data center, was that in design review or what was that in?
That was a design review, but it was a conceptual. I just moved it to the end. Do you want to go through that first?
Yes, if they are here, we should really go through that
Yes.
quickly.
So Mr. Del Greeter is here on behalf of the data center.
Okay. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth as you shall answer to the penalty of perjury?
I do.
I apologize. We meant to do all these ahead. So this is 1625 Rockwell Avenue. This is conceptual approval. So it's early in the process. So and we have the conditions here. So you can go pretty quickly.
Yeah, okay, just a quick overview. H5 is an existing data center located on Rockwell between East 17th and East 13th, Emerald Court to the north. They are proposing to undergo a significant expansion by adding new data servers to meet the future needs of their customers. 2 critical items that they need to support that expansion are consistent uninterrupted power and HVAC, specifically cooling. So with that, we are proposing to add a generator building on the west portion that's massed out there in the parking lot. And then at the other end of the block, yes. So go back 1 slide. Or
I'm sorry.
no, you're fine. You're fine.
Dale, Madam Chair, there were a few slides added at the beginning here just to provide extra context from the planning staff, and that's what you saw before. We could always go back to those. Sorry about that, Dale. You could go ahead.
No, you're fine. So the site context, building 1, the proposed generator building will be in the parking lot to the west. The expansion will be on the interior of building 4 to the east. The modifications to building 4 will be mostly mechanical louvers to support the HVAC equipment that will support the expansion of the data center. So, Drew, we could probably move right to the renderings if you'd like. So here's a conceptual site plan showing the generator building, and we propose to add some landscaping to kind of screen it from the residents on the south side of Rockwell. We did enhance the screen wall a little bit to kind of give it a little more visual interest per recommendations from the design review committee. The generator building is going to house 3 generators to start and associated switchgear with room to expand to, I think it's 8 or 9 generators as H5 continues to grow over the course of the next 10 years.
Is there a rendering, you said?
Yes. So here's the existing building 4. It is currently painted in this color scheme with the light gray at the top and the dark gray at the bottom. However, the dark gray is at a height of 16'10". So we were asked to kind of reduce that to a human scale. So we are proposing to step it down as it goes towards the main entrance to H5. And we'll do the same on the existing buildings 2 and 3, just to kind of give it a focal point. The green framed elements here are the necessary mechanical louvers to support the mechanical equipment for the 2nd and 3rd floor expansions. Or I'm sorry, the 3rd and 4th floor expansions. The 2nd floor is going to be associated switchgear for electrical. This is back at the west end of the site. We're going to provide, there's some existing trees there now and a small landscape bed. We're going to redo that with new trees. There is fencing that H5 requires secure parking for their customers as they're coming and going. There's been some comments to move this towards Rockwell, but we're hesitant to do that because we like the visual security of the secure parking on Rockwell versus Emerald Court. Even though it is secure parking, it's just a fence. It could be accessed by anybody if they really wanted to get in there.
Yeah. I have a question. Are you painting the entire brick building gray?
Well, it already is painted. Some of those context photos were from.
They're not. It's not just brick.
No, these are. It's,
is that existing right there?
That's existing. Yeah, it's currently painted. It was painted back in 2015, I believe, through 2017. I think was when it was completed.
Okay. Okay, commission members, I have a couple comments, but this is conceptual approval. So are there any other comments from other members? If not, I'll say my opinion, these kind of buildings don't have a lot of people in them. They're more equipment, and the building you're building doesn't have a lot of pedestrian life. So actually setting it back, to me, if you treat the sidewalk and do a lot more landscaping, to me will be a less harsh environment than an entire blank wall. So my preference is to keep it set back, but for you to beef up the ornamental fencing, in addition, like add ornamental fencing and trees and landscaping to make the pedestrian, because this street's kind of cool at the same time. So when you look across the street, there's a lot of trees. So if you're setting it back, for me, I would come back with much more thought about maybe reducing the size of that fencing height if it's not for security, and really making that nice. Second comment I'll make is that I don't love the bright green. I have to be honest, just from a design, unless that's like the logo of this company. I think there's probably a more, something that actually, because the louvers are kind of interesting and they actually make more, I think in some ways make this large building a little more interesting. So I would consider a kind of a more of a color that maybe really fits with the idea of the two colors of the gray. It can have color. I just think the bright green to me is a personal opinion. So those are my two comments.
That is their signature color.
I worried about that.
Corporate color.
Do they have a second corporate color? Do they have like a second one? I'm just kidding. So anyway, then I get it. It's their logo. But commission members?
Madam Chair, I'd like to move to approve as submitted, provided they address the comments by design review, staff, and your most recent comments.
Okay.
And I'll second.
Motion and a second. If there aren't any other comments, we'll call the roll.
This is Director Huang. Just wanted to note that this use is allowed by right in this zoning. One thing that did come up was around sound for the generators. And as staff, we are not concerned about that because it should only really go, very minimally 30 to 60 minutes a month. And so from a planning standpoint, we're interested in seeing how this will coexist with the townhomes to the south, which are those townhomes at Superior and 12, the Knez project. And to that point, Chair Curry, I agree with your comments about having this really nice ornamental fencing and having the building set back due to both the visual as well as the sound. Thank you.
Let's go ahead and take a roll, or did we vote? We had a roll call.
Downing.
Yes.
Fluker.
Yes.
Curry.
Yes.
Slife.
Yes.
Okay, motion carries. All right, we got two public art items, and if we lose any more, we're going to lose our quorum. So let's go fast.
So let's do the two items that require a vote. And The third item that was on the agenda was a 2020 year-end report. I've requested to Mr. Reddy that we move that to the next agenda.
Okay, thank you. And this is, go ahead, Payne Avenue Bridge Mural. Karis, do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth as you shall answer to the penalty of perjury?
I do, and I'm presenting with my colleague Rachel Price.
Okay, can she say yes too?
Yes.
Okay.
Awesome, thank you. We will go quickly. We are here for People's Streets. Just as a little bit of context, I think you can go to the next slide. We came to you last fall about painting crosswalks along Payne Avenue, and really excited that we're gearing up to be able to do that this month, this May. And we, as part of this project, also wanted to add, are able to add kind of a mural, or to add a mural that will go on the bridge on Payne Avenue that goes over the I-90 overpass. So I'm going to turn it over to Rachel to present on the mural.
Sure. So we shared our vision with 3 different artists and asked how they would incorporate our vision to create diverse neighborhoods, safer streets, and creating a welcoming place into a mural and incorporate volunteers. And through the interview process, we selected Kathleen Marcotte. She creates playful illustrations that are demonstrated here, and she's based locally in Cleveland. Next slide. This is where we're proposing to install the mural. It's on Payne Avenue between East 25th and East 27th Street, the bridge over I-90. And this is another representation of the location. Next slide, please. So Kathleen is proposing to paint 25 panels across each side of the bridge. She's using the vibrant color palette that's shown here on the page, and then she is planning on incorporating volunteers to paint the panels on either side of the portraits. Next slide, please. So the portraits will have extensions which will extend onto the fencing. We're planning on utilizing exterior paint to withstand the elements of Cleveland, and the extensions will be incorporated onto the fence using either corrugated plastic or privacy tape. Both options will have fasteners to keep the product secure to the fencing. The fence design is contingent upon ODOT's Aesthetics Committee review, so we plan to continue conversations with them for review and approval. Next slide. Here's an example of a fence installation in another location so you can get an idea of what it would look like. Next slide. And then finally, this is what the final product would look like. It's a mock-up of the design.
Commission members?
I move approval. Downing.
Second, Fluker.
I will second, but a quick comment, just kind of a point of personal privilege. If the team that presented doesn't mind reaching out to me, I had approached ODOT about doing a bridge project on Warren Road that's kind of a gateway between Cleveland and Lakewood, and was told by ODOT that we weren't doing this anymore. So I'd love to know how to unstick that. So thanks.
Okay.
I'd love to connect, council member. We are also kind of navigating through a similar process, but are working to push, and really grateful for hopefully the support of this commission to be able to reflect to them that the city is behind it.
Absolutely, and you can reach out to me, Karis.
Okay.
I'll help.
We have a motion and a second, so you have our full endorsement. There you go. Let's vote. Unanimous, hopefully. It will be unanimous.
Downing.
Yes.
Fluker.
Yes.
Curry.
Yes.
Blythe.
Yes.
Motion carries. Okay, and are you guys presenting the next one too, or no, is it Vince? All right. This is approval of the selection of artists for 15401 Miles Avenue. This is at the Frederick Douglass Rec Center. Vince, do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth as you shall answer to the penalty of perjury?
I do.
Okay, take it away. I think we lost him.
Okay, just quickly.
Vince, we can't hear
Ward,
you well. You're breaking up.
Ward 1 Rec Center now. Oh no. Okay, let me.
We can hear you now. There's just a lag. And if you could do this in 3 to 5 minutes, that would be great.
Now can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes, in less than that. The Ward 1 Rec Center, we go to the next slide, please. And just to show you where this is located, I know it's in the southeast corner of the city. Next slide. Some more context, just showing it to the Lee Harvard Commercial District. This shows that John F. Kennedy High School, which was formerly at Harvard and Lee, and then the rec center is on the eastern or right side of it. Next slide. And just the layout of the building, the main in the bottom, the aquatics at the up is where one of the art will be. We could go to the slide, please.
Oh,
This
Joyce,
is the
I wonder if
main
you could
hallway.
there's
There's a
Sure.
hallway
Hey,
off.
Vince,
This
you're
is the
very
main lobby,
slow
actually.
and it's very
Vince?
choppy. I'm going
Vince,
to
I
go
think-
ahead and pause you. I think there's a lag.
Yeah.
Vince, I'm gonna, if you don't mind, I'm gonna go through the slides very quickly. And if you have any comments, please utilize the chat because that has been working well. It's very, very slow.
Okay. Yeah, I'm sorry. I don't know why this is happening.
That's okay. You can turn off your video and try that too, but you can see the interior of the building. And Drew, you can keep scrolling down to the artists. There's a pool and there's 3 recommended artists from Sankofa Fine Art Plus, Robin Robinson, and her working partner, Darius Stewart and Evan Leisure. So if you can scroll through, we'll see where this is just artworks from Sankofa. Keep scrolling. Again, Sankofa's artworks, just beautiful, colorful, an enormous mural. And so they'll be doing an interior mural inside the pool area concept. Concept yet to be determined, I think. It'll be of rec students, rec scholars, rec young people. You can keep moving. Darius Stewart is a second artist. You may know his sculpture from the Eastman Regan Garden. Keep going. His mural work, keep going. And he'll be doing outdoor green space sculpture. Concept yet to be determined. And then finally, Evan Leisure. He'll be doing engraving style murals, which is really cool. And Vince, could you share where his artwork will be displayed? Oh, I see, graphic and hallway. This is the breakdown.
in the hallway off the main lobby.
Well, Vince, hopefully I did that justice. But
I have to say, I love all 3 artists. I love all 3 locations. The large murals in the pool are if they're executed, they'll be very cool. So great job.
Madam Chair, I move to approve.
And I second.
Motion and a second. Can we call the roll?
Downing,
Yes.
Fluker,
Yes.
Curry,
Yes.
Schleif.
Yes.
Motion carries. So before we turn over to the director, I think we need to just go quickly through the administrative approvals. I'm not going to read them, but if you could scroll through them slowly and we'll just approve those really quickly. This is at the Superior Viaduct for lease. This is at East 55th Street. This is Near Shaker Lakes, bridge rehabilitation. That's it. Okay, can we have a motion for administrative
Move to
approvals?
approve the approvals as presented.
And I'll second.
Motion and a second. Let's take the roll.
Downing,
Yes.
Fluker,
Yes.
Curry,
Yes.
Slythe.
Yes.
Motion carries. Director Wong, anything we should do? And I really want to thank everybody for the extra time to make up for the missing meeting. I think I feel good. We've caught up and hopefully we'll have a more regular meeting next week. August, I see your hand raised.
I do have a suggestion concerning art. I think if there's a way to change whether we review it, I don't think we're not going to change anything, quite frankly. And I think if there's like a quarterly sort of executive summary to kind of update us, and this stuff could be taken out of our purview. I don't know what that would take, but that's just my personal opinion. Thank you.
It would require an amendment to the ordinance. So we can take a look at that. But I do believe the Planning Commission is charged with reviewing where the public art is located in the public realm, and perhaps we focus more on that rather than the art itself.
No, I just know other cities do it differently. I'm sure there's some best
Yeah.
practices out there. Thank you.
Yeah, and that is something worth exploring, like an arts commission, which I know has been a topic of conversation. Thank you. Any other comments before I roll through the director's report? Okay, Drew, if you could advance the slide. I do want to share with the community several opportunities to get involved. So we did submit 2 congressional earmark requests for the Lee Road Corridor Revitalization Project, which is to design Lee Road in conjunction with Shaker Heights so that the connection between Ward 1 and Shaker Heights is seamless and smooth and a complete and green street. The Memorial Bridges Loop, we also requested $500,000 about that for construction of a separated bike lane using quick curb construction. And if you want to support the project, you can visit the link here on our website. If you look up congressional earmark requests, you'll be able to find it there. Next slide. Here's an upcoming Vision Zero community meeting on May 19th to discuss safety improvements on Lee Road. And then finally, NOACA is doing a public survey for a 3-county lakefront plan that they have just launched. So if you'd like to participate in that, please Google Lake Erie Connect, and you can go from there to take the survey. Keep going, please. So I do want to give staff some recognition. We have promoted several staff. We have promoted Marka Fields to Assistant Director. So Marka, if you could just wave, if you want to say 30 seconds of remarks, that would be extremely helpful.
I just want to just say that I'm grateful for the opportunity to serve in this new role. I've been here for a while and just thoroughly enjoyed my time while I've been here. Have seen a lot through several different administrations, different directors, and just looking forward to moving forward with this new administration and with Joyce as our director. She's been great to work with over the past few months, and just really looking forward to continuing and building that relationship.
Marka.
Thank you, Marka. Thank you for your leadership also in the transition. You were really phenomenal. So thank you.
Thank you.
I also want to uplift Pegah Noorfard. She is our former senior assistant city planner and has been promoted into the role of city planner urban design. And she is the one who creates renders, concepts, any additional needed urban design and graphics, as well as these monstrous cities of PowerPoint slide decks that we see for these planning commissions, which range between 500 to 800 slides per meeting. So thank you, Pegah. I do want to call out that we will have an upcoming departure. City planner for the Northeast region, Sharonda Watley, will be departing us next Thursday, and I want to give her an opportunity to share her next phase of life and also for us to celebrate her for a few moments. Go ahead, Sharonda.
Thank you. Thank you for that. So I just wanted to quickly say thank you to the Planning Commission and to the department. So yes, I will be departing next Thursday. Is my last day. I've accepted the role of Assistant Director of Strategic Planning for the City of Pittsburgh. So I will be moving here shortly. And so I'm really excited and nervous about the new leadership role that I'll be in. But I have promised to maintain connections and stay in touch with the city planning department. So I'm really excited on my next venture.
Congratulations. Remember us.
Thank you. Oh, for sure. Let me tell you. I'll have certain folks' numbers on speed dial. So thank you.
And, Sharonda's been critical in the Midway project, in project managing multiple TLCIs, including Euclid TLCI, and, has served for 9 years. So we're just so grateful for your public service to the city of Cleveland, Northeast side, and, overcoming many challenges as well as creating many opportunities in the neighborhoods. So thank you. Please note the upcoming job postings. We are hiring and looking for staff to fill the shoes of many wonderful people. You can see those on the screen there. And final slide, Drew, is in regards just in the news. We have been in the news recently. Matt Moss did a wonderful interview with WKOIC about the 15-minute city concept, which Mayor Bibb highlighted in the 100 Days speech, and had a warm reception so far, and the staff is working hard on the analysis and sort of the pre-policy development there. And then finally, just to highlight a public art, Cleveland was a stop on a multi-city pop-up sculpture tour, and Tara Petrus from our team worked really hard to make sure that it stopped here in Cleveland in the University Circle area. So that's it for the director's report. Wanted to keep it short and sweet. We also want to be able to give an opportunity for us to be transparent from our department to share out to the world what we've been working on and some of the changes in the department. So thank you.
Thank you, Director Wong, also for managing a really complex agenda and a complex kind of few weeks. So thank you. Your leadership is tremendous.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Happy Mother's Day.
Yeah, happy Mother's Day, everyone. And meeting, I think, was adjourned. I don't know if I said that. So meeting adjourned. And thank you for the extra time for you, August, for everybody on the commission.
Yes, I have to thank you, each of you, for your extra time, and to the